Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, the Euro Homunculus, and I'm joined by Mr. Nathan Prescott on the AOS Monday show. Hello, Nathan.
Hello. How's it going,
Oh,
Mr. Homunculus man?
Really good. Thanks so much for asking back. That's lovely of you. Mr. Adam Mumford today. Hello, Adam.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
That's all I've got. I've used all my energy.
Okay, you got rolling 4-ups.
Just too many 4+s.
4+s.
4+.
Little side note, Dan, hello, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fantastic. What's your favorite dinosaur, Rob? Yeah, if I can put you on the spot, minute one.
Stegosaurus.
Terrible.
Lame.
What?
Yeah. No, obviously the correct answer is Ankylosaurus.
Why?
Like, obviously. Because he's like rock... Nah, fuck them. They're like...
Little ankle biters.
Yeah, they're just pretentious. Like an Ankylosaurus, he's chilling out, but he's got like a hammer for a tail. But I'm pretty sure he was a herbivore, so he'd just be like munching on some plants and then like fuck him up with a hammer and be like, yeah, gotcha. So obviously he's the best.
I'm not an Ankylosaurus gang. Nathan, what about you?
Pterodactyl.
A pterodactyl?
Can fly.
Yeah, I get that.
They had feathers, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fine by me.
Good. Because I was worried that you would be concerned by that, but I'm glad that you've... that's good. Adam, what was yours?
Velociraptor.
Okay. They also had feathers.
Like
also
small and annoying, isn't it?
They're powerful, though. Powerful in packs, like Team Lit. Just remember that.
Like cockatrices.
And cockatrices.
Oh, yeah. True.
So,
yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today's show is it's actually a little bit of a stretch for us. I'm not going to lie. First I'm going to ask the hosts how they are. We're going to shoot the shit about some news and stuff. But then after that, and this is pretty wild, so don't get too excited, we're going to talk competitive Age of Sigmar. And now I know we don't generally tend to do that on a Monday. Yeah, generally, even though we're more of a narrative channel, and some would say we're actually the denizens of competitive Age of Sigmar, but some would disagree with that as well. So we might actually talk about things in the game, but don't hold us to that. I'm not sure if we're going to get there, because I do think Nathan went to a tournament the other day, so I don't know, strap yourself in. This could be 3 hours.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. All right, I'll go backwards. Dan, how have you been? What have you been up to?
I'm good. I'm just back into the rat race, working on set. We've been to some truly stunning and beautiful locations, but we've been doing massive days. So so I'm like propped up by caffeine and scenery and beautiful Canadian scenery. So which is surprising how far you can get on some majestic fucking mountains and rivers and things.
It's super nice, Canada, right? I'll be there in 3 weeks. I'll be there in 3 weeks at the capital city bloodbath. If you don't have anything to do, come check it out. I will be covering the 40k element, but I hope to see some of my Age of Sigmar boys, girls, MBs, and everything in between and around those. That would be super fun. So please do say hello. But you've been generally okay, Dan.
I've been majoritively okay, like not even just generally okay. Like it's we're in a good place. I broke my finger. I think I mentioned that a couple of shows ago, and check it out. I can now move it this far.
Oh,
Look at that. That's Oh, so I can almost hold a paintbrush, which is very exciting.
Okay, good. Adam, brother
Yes.
Dawn. Okay.
I still don't understand. Could you just explain that to me one more
I'm
time?
not explaining it anymore. It's a funny joke for the 8 people who've watched the TV show Foundation or have read the book by Asimov. But other than
Are you
that,
sure?
I think it's funny, but that's not an issue.
But is it funny?
I like it.
All right.
So
You do you. Like,
yeah,
you do your thing, you know?
I'll travel on my journey. How are you big babe?
I've just been taking names.
Okay, good. Do you want
Found
to
out Warhammer's easy.
How easy is Warhammer?
Just roll 4-ups.
Just roll 4-ups. Do you want to let the audience in on what you're referencing?
Just won a tournament, isn't it?
Okay, so for the
It's about
podcast
5-0.
listeners, thanks for listening, by the way, and staying hydrated. Adam has showed to the screen what looks to be a stripper's hat.
Because it is. Like feathers. Like fairy stuff.
I just had a sip of coffee, you fuck. Why would you say that?
Wait, so it's a gladiatorial helmet.
I don't really know. It's just like. a
Okay,
hat.
maybe Nathan, fan of the show, and also weirdly fan of masks and helmets. Nathan, have you seen one of those recently?
Yeah. There were some dudes wearing like some fluorescent ones at a festival the other day.
Why can't I win one of those?
They
Yeah.
were pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
don't know, like.
Was there Warhammer at the event?
No, but there should be, I reckon.
Warhammer Rave.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Warhammer
expand
Techno
Warhammer Techno?
and the
Nathan-
forest.
Nathan, you suggesting that we all take mushrooms and play Warhammer?
Well, yeah, that's an obvious thing that you have to do in life.
Of course.
Yeah. Or why would you play Warhammer without it?
We should just do a
Micro-
GoFundMe. We should just do a GoFundMe, like a Kickstarter. Rob and Nathan Battle Report, both on mushrooms. £25,000.
In fact, do that for free.
You are, Adam?
Just do it for free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you were
You
living
have a
in
great
the field
time.
on the weekend. Yeah, that's true. We
Yeah.
we would do it for free. That's true. I'm just jealous. Of
Just like a
Jonathan Tactics.
microdose tournament where everyone has to start the morning at breakfast. You know, they're having their bacon and eggs, and then they start microdosing, and then they keep it going for the entire event. So by the end, like the last round, they've built up such a high amount in their system. They're like listening to orders from their models, being like, he wants to retreat. He can't do it. It's
He
like,
can't hack it.
yeah,
Valerial,
he
no,
doesn't.
not now. Okay,
Yeah.
later.
Stop it. Yes,
Oh,
Night
fuck.
Queen Ronya.
Now it's fine.
Ronya says sounds like a great warm-up sideshow for Worlds in Holland. Yes, let's go. Let's go. All right, Adam, you went to a tournament this weekend, and what you are alluding to is that you did very well at the tournament. You went 5-0, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. Won 5 games out of 5.
5 out of 5. That's a
Ooh.
100% win rate. That's
It
great.
is.
Dan and Nathan might not be 100% certain what was in your list, so and neither may the listeners
No.
be. So could you let us know what was in your list? I assume lots of Enlightened, because they're pretty good.
Well, I took Beasts of Chaos Army
Okay, good. Really strong at the moment.
in the
So who-
standard or herd.
They have been doing okay. Like we've seen them perform
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
well. Yeah,
Great
Yeah.
army.
Do you want to know
Like,
what their current Age of Sigmar 3.3 stats are, Dan?
absolutely.
Thanks to Ziggy and Rob, the current stats for Beasts of Chaos is only 51%. So average.
So average army, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know. Well, I was like, you know what? I can improve this.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Take us on
So-
the journey.
I took the Dragon Ogre Shagoff as my general because you know, as you do, right? You take him. Sick. He had the command trait and the artifact. I still don't know what they do, which is kind of awkward. I didn't read them, so hopefully I didn't mess anything up.
Do you know what? I'm so sorry. I do want to hear this, but we need to go back a bit. We got to go back a bit. Talking Nathan being in a festival. Let's rewind. Let's. Some of you may wonder how I ended up at this tournament with this army list. Well, yeah, let me tell you the 2 days previous. Adam, when you got there, because it was obviously on a Saturday and Sunday, did you stay over Friday night?
I did, yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
Where was the event?
It was in Telford.
Okay, Telford.
I don't know where that is either.
North, probably.
West
Yeah.
somewhere.
West
West
Country.
England.
Northwest, yeah. And
Yeah.
and okay, and then did you stay at a friend's house? Did you stay in a hotel?
I didn't. No,
Okay.
no. I decided that was quite expensive.
That's
You
fair.
know, a hotel.
Yeah.
They're rather pricey at the moment. It was like £100 a night.
Wow.
Who's got that type of money?
Yeah,
I
no
can-
one. Not in today's
I can tell
economy.
you, definitely not me. But I did find I googled around, and there was this lovely field. And I was
There
like,
was.
"Ooh, hello.
Okay, hold on. Was this like a field for people to stay in, or you just saw there was a field?
Yeah, that's like was this actually an available field, or were you like, there's just some empty space on this land?
Well, to be fair, to start with, I did just see a field, and I was like, huh, maybe I could just put a tent up. And then
Good.
I thought, I should probably be a bit official. You know, I don't want to, just be one of those people. And I found a campsite and they for one night they wanted £10.
That's 10% of the price of a hotel, bro.
It is.
That's
It
correct.
is. So, £10 for the night. So I spent 2 nights there. I was like, oh, splash out. I'll go for 2 nights instead of 1. So, you know.
And how was that?
Honestly, it was the best weekend of like staying somewhere, like ever. Because like it rained, and they had that like pitter patter of rain on the tent, and I was like, oh, hello, snuggled up obviously on my airbed, because I'm not an animal. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Like, with my electrical hookup, because I found an extension lead and just ran it along to my tent.
In the rain. Cool.
Yeah.
In the rain. Okay, good.
It worked. I needed to charge my phone.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
If without my phone, I've got no war scrolls. I've got no books. So
That's true. That's true. It's almost as if, because I was worried your books would be wet, but then I realised that you'd put them all inside your phone.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
they're all
good.
on my phone.
Yeah, okay.
And rather than books, they're screenshots. So
Yeah.
And I had my army in the tent, which was nice. So I had that there, and it was only about 20-minute drive to the venue as well, and it was lovely. Matt came and joined me on Saturday night. He pitched up his tent. And
Wait, so it now became a tenting event?
It did, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
amazing.
At one point, there was going to be like 8 people, and they all bailed because they're losers.
They are losers.
Or they did the cost benefit. Like, all I'll say is, like, I love camping. Don't get me wrong. I truly enjoy it. But I can think of nothing worse than standing over a table for 2 days and then being like, hey, what are you going to go sleep in? And instead of being like, a bed, be like an inflatable mattress or a rolled out piece of foam.
Well, the funny part was Matt forgot his rolled up piece of foam.
Oh, his poor back.
He's Welsh, though. He's Welsh. That's
used
not
to
a
it.
problem. Yeah, he's
Oh,
used
so
to
they
it.
don't actually feel anything ever.
I don't think. I think they're still contemplating how to say the words they've got to say in their language. They're like, oh, and just fall asleep. Yeah,
That's just not called for, is it?
no,
It's just
not called for. Apologies.
Thank you.
Apologies. Don't cancel.
I'm going to. But he decided halfway through the night to wake me up to grab a chair out of my tent, and ended up, instead of sleeping in his tent, to just sit there all night. So from like 2 o'clock in the morning till I woke up, he sat in a field with a can of cider, and honestly, we had the best time.
Cool.
So like, because it's really awkward, because me and Matt were playing each other, game 4. So like, we both like spent the night, chatting away by the tents with our ciders, and then going, wait, shit, I don't like you anymore. And part of me was debating like just burning his tent down halfway through.
Like pulling a fire festival on him and just being like, here's a piece of cheese, you chud.
This is actually the cutest story in the world. You and your friend went camping and also dominated the Age of Sigmar tournament experience. Okay, good.
Just easy, innit?
Yeah.
And I attribute all my success to that, to be honest.
Okay, so because you were playing Beast of Chaos, so you connected with nature.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
I
perfect.
connected with nature.
Did
Matt
you
connected
pee
with the
in a
trees.
field?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, cool. Because that's pretty much like, that's 80% of how Beasts of
There
Chaos
was a toilet block, to be fair.
Oh, okay, so no pooping in the field.
No. But that was quite far away, so
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'll ask no questions.
We
and I'll
get
tell
what
no
you're
lies.
saying.
Yeah. We understand, but we don't question. That's what empathy is, I think.
See, I like to share a moment with you, Adam. I once went camping at an Age of Sigmar event,
nice.
and it was truly the worst decision I ever made, because I got fucked by croak twice in one day. Once
the tent or...
on the table, and then that night. So it was a Saturday.
Okay.
I went. This is like a kind of like, we don't really have seasons in Australia. We just have summer and then hot summer, especially up in Queensland. So I was camping, and there must have been a frog somewhere in the wheel housing of the car parked like beside my tent, that intermittently, like it was like water torture, because it wasn't constant and it wasn't like to time. It would just like once every 10 to 30 seconds it would go
You know.
And like I'd be trying, and it was just loud enough that like a pillow over the head, nothing would stop it. And so like I was up for the majority of the night. Like I even got out like with my flashlight and was fucking looking for this frog, being like, "Where are you, you bastard?" So then it kept me up all night. So I showed up to the second day, and everyone was like, "How you doing?" And I was like, "I have been better. Like no sleep, ready to do it." So I was like, the fucking croak nailed me twice.
Yeah. Well, I put on Twitter that I was camping, and I think one of the Australians did reply to it saying, "Yeah, we camp all the time." And my reply was essentially, "That's very different to camping in the UK."
Yeah, a place famous for an entire like group of people who basically lived nomadically because the environment was okay, versus a shithole.
I was like, this isn't my summer. I don't know if you saw the video. It was literally raining and dark. That was at like 4:00 in the afternoon.
You're ready.
All right, okay. So after you've done camping and connecting with nature, what list did you decide to play with?
So yeah, I Beast of Chaos, all heard, the standard. So you get command ability, you use it, get an extra summoning point because you always need more. And I had a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth from the general with some artifacts and a command trait. Don't know what it was. And then I had a great Bray Shaman to babysit the Herdstone to burn people, or maybe himself if he's feeling naughty. And I took Be'lakor as well. So Be'lakor's pretty cool.
Be'lakor's very cool, yeah.
He shuts down a unit for a turn essentially. If you roll 3 pluses, I wasn't very good at that, so it didn't really work very well. But I still had him, and he worked very well. He actually won me 2 games. Like literally, his ability alone won me 2 games. And then I had 6 Dragon Ogres in 1 unit, because as a standard, Dragon Ogres unit 6, pretty standard, especially with the Beast of Chaos 4+ rally. So some die, you just bring them all back, which is hilarious when you see your opponent's face, or especially when you take them out of coherency, so that then you kill more, so they're then out of combat, and then in their turn you go rally. So that's quite fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, and then I took 2 units of 10 Ungor to finish my battle line, but also because they're galley vets, I can have 2 units in your territory for barge through, so it gets me an extra point. So that's why I had 2 units of galley vets. And then I was like, well, I've still got like 1,000 points even with all of that. What would you do with it? Most people would be like, I'll take some Enlightened. They're very good.
2 units.
Other people,
a unit of 6 is like 360 points. It's a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, fantastic.
It's a bargain.
Right. The other week took 18 Skyfires.
You did,
for example.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of them like since the early days when they were, doing mortals on like 3 pluses and things like that. We really, after that, Skyfire stonks went way down.
Skyfires were fantastic. I enjoyed those, but that was a bit of an off-meta pick. But I thought, hey, I think I can do something even more off-meta here, and invested in not 1, not even 2, but 10 cockatrices. For 950 points.
950 points. 95 points each, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Oh god.
That makes sense.
So they're pretty cool. They've got 8 wounds each.
What's their war scroll? They're like a Jabba slice. I don't think I've
would you
ever
like a
seen
deep
them.
dive on the cockatrices?
I would, as
Actually,
risky as it is to say.
Can I just tell you some of the stuff that you may not know? So a cockatrice, also called a basilisk, some people wouldn't know they're the same. In the legends
Are they the same?
Yeah, they are. Basilisk is the same, Raheem. Yeah.
There you go.
In the legends of Hellenistic and Roman times, is a small serpent, possibly the Egyptian cobra known as Basiliskos, which is a kinglet, and are credited with a power of destroying all animal and vegetable life by its mere look or breath.
It's how I get through life.
Okay.
I just channeled my inner cockatrice.
Good.
So yeah, I took 10 of them because they're 8 wounds apiece, which is a pretty good, that's 80 wounds of cockatrice.
Yeah. Which
is, quite nice. They move 12 inches, so they're pretty fast. Their bravery doesn't matter because they're units of 1. And they've got 6+ save, which is better than no save.
That's actually true. Actually,
and
with a Mystic Shield, 5 up, 6 up. Yeah.
Exactly. But it also means that because there's so much rend in the game, you don't have to roll as many dice.
Oh, really?
True. That's you're saving yourself time.
They're like, that's 8 wounds at rend 1. I'm like, fantastic. I'll just take it off. Thank you. And you literally say thank you to your opponent. But the the main thing about them is that they've got a nice ability, which they literally stare at someone. I think they use their eyes.
Petrifying
or something.
gaze.
Oh, all right. Sorry, Mr. Narrative.
It's okay. We had Gay Pride yesterday, and that's what I was experiencing. It's just a great joke. That's just a great joke, and I refuse to live it down. Carry on.
You crack on with that. But basically, so it's a 10-inch shot, so it's quite short range, so you're danger close, all right? But it doesn't hit on anything. It doesn't wound on anything. There's no rend or anything like that. It's just a straight up 4+, you do D6 mortal wounds.
4+ D6 mortal wounds. And you're taking 10 of them, so statistically, 5d6 mortal wounds.
5d6 mortal wounds a turn.
Which is roughly 17 to 18.
Wow. Okay.
But if you're me, it's about 4.
Oh. Okay, so would you say it worked out well for you over the course of the weekend?
No, it didn't work at all. I was essentially going like this. I'd roll the 4+, and I'm like, here we go. Here comes the 6. Oh, 1 mortal wound. Oh, okay. Go to the next one. He didn't get the 4+. Next one. No, he didn't get the 4+ either. It kind of all went wrong. The real power in their war scroll is one of their keywords.
Oh yeah, what's their keyword?
Monster keyword.
But they are not the battlefield role behemoth.
That's the one.
Oh boy, oh boy.
So they all count as 5 on an objective. So you can like tippy-toe loads on and just keep the objectives. And also, they can all do monstrous actions.
Amazing. Truly amazing.
So you just sit there and you like charge it in and go stomp, or you go roar, or what a lot of people like to do against Beast of Chaos player is kill the monsters, because they have a monstrous action that gives you the primordial roar, which gives you more summoning points.
Okay.
They're not getting through that many monsters.
Okay, so follow-up question, Adam. Was this an event where incarnates are banned?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a bit of an incentive to take it, because obviously monsters, if an incarnate kills a monster, it goes up a level. After this weekend, I literally couldn't care less, because my entire game plan after game 1 was to stand there and hope.
Oh,
and for 5 games, it worked.
What do you mean stand there and hope?
Well, I realised the mortal wounds wasn't very good.
Okay.
But my objective taking power was insane.
Because of the cockatrices. It's
Because
they all
they just
count.
count
Because
as 5.
Because they all count as 5. Okay.
So
Nice.
you just run them forward and you score the objectives, and then as they die, you're building up summoning points.
And then you put more on.
I wouldn't summon anything until turn 5.
Okay.
Literally nothing. And by turn 5, I was usually on between 20 and 30 summoning points, and I'd summon 100 Ungor.
That is the chaos I was not expecting. 100 Ungor. And why specifically Ungor, Adam?
Just take objectives, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Because
Like,
they're galley vets.
They are. And the fun part is over the entire weekend, so I played obviously 5 2,000-point armies. That's 10,000 available kill points. I got less than 2,000.
Less than 2,000 over the course of the weekend.
In one game, I got 120.
And you won the game.
And I won the game.
Okay.
Again, in my final game versus Dan, I got like 400.
Okay.
When I played Matt, I got 65.
Okay.
I realised you don't actually need to kill anything to win Age of Sigmar, do you?
So you just get
Just
the
run.
gold.
You just run around and just hope you don't die. And because you've got 8 wounds, people have to split their shots, which means they're going to fluff the rolls a lot of the time.
That's crazy.
Also, you just mess with your opponent and be like, can you kill this one? And then when they do, you give them a handshake and go, cool, that's now my summoning pool. Because I didn't bring any extras.
And they feel a little bit debilitated by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
All right, good. Okay, so that's pretty amazing, especially like because I thought when I read it, I was like, okay, that's gonna have just popped off, right? You're gonna have
No.
just been like, I just rolled 4s, I kept rolling 6s, I was just like, delete that, delete, because truthfully, 2 of them obviously could just like do 12 mortal wounds, when
Yep.
they pop off.
Like
Average
every so
isn't
often
that.
it did happen. I think it happened twice. So like one turn, I did about 20 mortal wounds.
Yeah,
The issue
okay.
is because you're so close to things, if you're committing to that, that's when they can kill them. So you literally just backboard them all, and then you just fly around and block board space, and you do interesting things. And then with Be'lakor, anything that's a threat to killing more than one in the turn, you stop that unit.
Yeah,
So like
of
there was a
course.
point where I was playing Soulblight, he summoned his 20 Graveguard in sort of a line and lined them up to basically kill about 5 in a turn. That turn, I stopped that unit.
Okay, amazing. So would you describe Be'lakor as being useful in the army?
Genuinely won me 2 games. Like
Oh,
literally
nice.
won me 2 games.
Okay, which 2 and why?
So I won game 2 versus a Stormcast player. It was the new instant win mission, which is a absolute faff. If you've read that, by the way,
I have, yes.
I don't think anyone still understands how it works. But basically, you can start controlling the objectives you can control your home one in turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you control your home one, you can start to control the middle one. And then if you control the middle one, you can go for their home one. And if you control all 3, you instantly win.
Okay.
So in that game, the Stormcast player basically translocated a unit of 10 protectors in my face. And I was like, that's fine. He might kill the 6. He probably won't kill the 6 Dragon Ogres with 10 protectors because they don't actually have that output. Oh, I was wrong.
You were wrong.
Very, very wrong.
Oh, no.
He charges them forward turn 1, gets the 9-inch charge, and I'm like, oh, okay. Bearing in mind he's also put other things down, gets all the 9-inch charges, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're in trouble turn 1. He kills the 6 Dragon Ogres outright because he does 17 mortal wounds with his soul mace.
Oh, with the
things.
maces, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I was like, right, fantastic. Kills like all my Ungor screens. And I was like, oh no, we're in a little bit of trouble here. He then wins the double turn.
Uh-oh.
I was like, oh no, you're going to kill all my cockatrices. And then I was like, God a minute. So I had to leave the game at that point because I get very stressed out when I'm playing the Warhammer. Like genuinely, it sometimes just goes up. And I said to him, I've just got to take a break because this is like, when you have one of those turns where all just goes wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to lip out for 5 minutes. So I dipped out and I said to myself, what am I doing? This unit's not scary. I've got Be'lakor. Fucking idiot. Walked back in and went, Be'lakor. Cool. Right, crack on, buddy. So he then had a unit of 10 protectors stood in front of my army doing literally nothing. And I was like,
Protecting you.
Protecting
Yeah,
They
you.
were standing there
Yeah.
thinking like, we now work for Be'lakor.
It was awesome. And then because he took the turn into turn 2, at the end of his turn, I got control of my home objective because you obviously check control at the end of player turns.
Of course.
And then in my turn 2, I tippy-toed 3 cockatrices onto the middle objective, which meant I had 15. He had 14, so I controlled that one. I then won the double turn after summoning a Chimera and 10 Ungor by his home objective. I won the double turn, moved them on the objective, won the game.
Oh, perfect.
After losing pretty much my entire army and killing 1 character.
Cool.
So
My
Be'lakor
favorite
came in.
part is that
Go on, Dad.
I was just saying, my favorite part is that in the list that features Be'lakor, you were like, oh shit, I've lost so many of my cockatrices. And then you had to take a moment to be like, oh, no, that's right. I have Be'lakor. I have Be'lakor.
Yeah, I was
took
like,
1,000 points of cockatrices as a joke, and I was panicking because I lost them. Like, I like that was like, you got to a point where you'd invested so much in cockatrices that you had to, like, do the mental gymnastics of going back to, like, what's the actual good competitive element of my army? This big-ass monster with all these fancy abilities.
That happened to me at my event a couple of weeks ago, the same one me and Adam were at. Like, someone would kill, like, 2 units of 3 Screamers, and I was like, what will I do now? And I was like, okay, don't worry, Rob. They're 100 points each. Like, this is fine. Like, I really had to, like, because, like, I take every death as, like, I'm like, I will never financially recover from this. Like, someone's like, that your screen's dead. I'm like, oh, well, it's over. This game's over. I concede.
Like,
Oh, you're conceding to win the games, though. Oh, I concede here, friend. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, hang on.
well, I know that we're going through the game, but we're talking competitively. So I wanted to drop something in here because you mentioned earlier, Adam, that people have to split their fire, right? And I have always been of the opinion, commit much more than you need to kill something for two reasons. The first is what you can do to your opponent. Like, there's a little bit of mental games in Warhammer, and that's because it's competitive. If you blast something off the board, or like two things off the board confidently, showing confidence, you can rattle your opponent so that they make a couple of mistakes in their turn, like you were in that position of doing. But if you multi-target things and don't finish them off, you actually build their confidence and you can rattle yourself, because then you're like, fuck, I didn't actually take any of their tools off the board. Just when it comes to multi-targeting, especially with shooting, even if you play the numbers, don't, because the mental game of taking pieces off the board can often really pitch your opponent going into their next turn.
The amount of times I'd have like 4 cockatrices left on a wound, and I'm like, they still do the exact same thing now.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a good lesson there, right? Like, finish your target off completely.
but the
Kill
issue
what you
is,
can.
you also can't do that against the cockatrices, because if you kill 1 a turn, I'm winning.
Yes,
True.
that's true.
So you have to split fire and basically hope. And when it doesn't work, I go, sweet, I've still got them. And I've built up more summoning points. And when they die, I go, I've still got summoning points, mate.
Which is still perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, still perfect. Okay, so you had a fun time. This was where? Was this where?
It was Shropshire Slaughter in Telford. At
Wait, what was the place?
Glasshammer?
Oh, wow. I
Glass
would have
Hammer?
camped then, definitely. Could have camped inside, probably. It's the same difference.
That's called squatting, Rob. It's not camping at that
It was
point.
all right there. It was
Okay,
all right.
all right. You're
Tables
right.
were nice.
So, yeah, table. Let's do a quick classic review. Table height.
It was all right. I'm only short.
All right, that's fine. No problem. Terrain.
Yeah, it seemed all right. I only paid like 35 quid for the ticket. So
Organisation.
fantastic.
Great. Food.
The day 1 was like a buffet thing with like sandwiches and things. Now everyone found it amazing. I'm not into that stuff because I don't want people touching my food.
Seems fair.
Like, so I didn't eat, but everyone else found it amazing. So like, it was good. It's just not my thing. So,
Okay. All right.
but day 2 was Papa John's pizza. So I was like, hey, now
nice.
Yeah.
What about toilets?
we're in. Questionable.
Oh. Okay.
You have to like walk down a street
Yeah.
or like down the road to go into like somewhere that I definitely didn't feel safe.
That's literally the worst review a toilet can have.
That's also from the man who slept in a field the night before. He was like, "This is fine, but these toilets not fine." Okay.
With this face.
There is something about a toilet, because it's, you're sitting down, you're taking your pants off, and you're completely exposed and completely vulnerable. I know why dogs look so uncomfortable while they're mid-plop. And like, the last thing you want to do is say, that place is where I don't feel safe.
It was awkward.
Okay.
It's nice hand dryers though.
They had hand dryers in the awkward toilets.
Yeah, they
Nice.
did. They did.
Okay. All right. Not the.
The sink was also a bit. I'm not sure I actually cleaned my hands. As more of just
What does that mean?
like. I don't want to go into detail because I think you'll get cancelled.
A classic from today. All right. Perfect. Well, Adam, thanks for the review. Would you go back?
Yes, because I am now the champion. No, actually, I don't think I would, because I just want to like bask in glory and never have to defend a title.
And
While you're
maintain.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
I've completed AOS now.
You have completed AOS. Is this
you
your
won,
first
yeah.
5-0?
It is, yeah.
Oh, congratulations! That's exciting times.
And I had to beat 3 of my teammates to get there.
Yes, because you're in Team Lit, right? Which is a wargaming team. So you've got like the Tough Crowd over in the USA, Wicked Dicey, and now we've got a wargaming team here, Team Lit. Is that correct?
We're gonna try and be like an actual competitive team.
What's the
like-
what's the goal for the team?
Smash face and do it well.
Maybe encourage Middle England camping trips.
Yeah, and also encourage people not to cheat at top tables.
In England, that's going to be a toughie. So crack
Well,
on, Adam.
The amount,
Tough sell.
me and Matt came up, or Matt and I should say, came up with like the team because we play loads of games, and you get to the top table and your opponent would be really stressy, and me and him would literally be sat there basically dancing, like, and having a like fantastic time. And maybe your opponent might do an extra inch on something, and it was always just that awkward conversation you then had to have of, let's not do that. Or we like playing by intent. So you say, cool, I'm in cover, yeah? But your base is slightly hanging off because you don't want it to fall off. And then when they go to hit it, they go, oh, actually, you're not quite in cover. And you just go, fuck off, you prick. So we wanted to make a team that just includes people that don't do that. And so we can shit on those that do.
Cool.
Okay.
So it's basically a passive-aggressive team. Because that's my whole
Sounds very
personality.
British. That sounds
Right.
very British.
Okay, it's exciting. And thanks for coming on the show, because obviously a 5-0 with a very unique meta list is
I copied off someone else.
Sure, I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Which will be a great conversation for like the conversation after. Nathan, haven't even found out how you are yet. What up, star of the show? What up, homie? What up, dance
Hello,
commander? How are you? What's going on?
All good, all good. Yeah. I have not played any Warhammer over the last week or two because we've been off a couple of weeks, but I did play at Clash, like you mentioned, with my gits. That was fun weekend. Came away from there with a 3-2. Yeah, happy with that actually. So yeah, it was good. Been writing lists ever since. Kind of interested in playing some. Yeah, some Battletech, whatever that is. Are there goblins in there? No, then that can fuck off.
Well, you don't know what's inside a robot, Nath. That's the hard truth.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah.
Could just be full of meat.
Yeah.
You know, like they just like
I
take
doubt it's
sausage
goblin
meat, dump
meat
it in
though.
there. That's true.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I have been writing lists. So I'm hoping to get some games in next week. I want to go more bodies, just see how that goes. Yeah. Following on from your cockatrice thing.
How many like cheap monsters can you get in your list?
Yeah, all of our monsters have got the behemoth keyword.
Just cheat and take it off.
Sure.
Not sure.
Don't know. Yeah, I should double check on that. But yeah, I could do it with Grots, so I'm quite happy to swamp the board with Grots. With the 4-up rally that you mentioned, that's good times for them. Yeah, that was super useful at Clash. So yeah, with that, and also obviously you can recycle them through the shrine as well. So
Yeah, so
try and deny people the prime objectives more, like how I think your games were being played.
Yeah, just play primary. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting kind of feedback from you, Nath. What list did you, just quickly run us through it, like what list you took at least to Clash? Because you went to Clash, you went 3-2. We haven't been live since then.
Yeah. So I took a load of stabbers. So I took a 40 and 2 20s of stabbers, and some sneaky snufflers to buff them, obviously, and spore splatters. So I had loads of attacks coming out of those units. And then I had a fungoid cave shaman was my general, and I gave him the boss shaman trait. So it means he could then use the command trait off of the loon boss. So, Marshcrawler Trogoth from the Cruel Boys to give everybody +1 a hit. Perfect.
Perfecto.
Yeah. And some knights, some Rock Bounder knights, and a Squid Gobber as well.
And a Squid Gobber. How did the Squid Gobber do?
And yeah, a cap and a couple of things.
Did you just spit on people?
Yeah, I basically just spat on people. Sometimes the spit hurt, and sometimes it didn't. Yeah, it was good. That's quite good.
That's
It
quite
might
reflective
be-
of real life, to be honest.
Yeah. It might be the equivalent of your cockatrice. I know it's got the monster. No, it's got the.
Has it got the
monster
behemoth
trait. I'll look that
battlefield
up
role?
whilst you can. Yeah,
10
I'm
squid gobbers.
wondering about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
10 squid gobbers. The new meta.
Yeah, they're not.
Oh,
I
no.
was looking
What is
at
happening during
Fonroid.
that today, bro?
Twice the.
Yeah, what, bro? Did you?
Yeah, they're twice the points of.
Yeah, they are. They're very expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. We lost you a bit there on the old www.tinterwebs.com as a thing. Nathan, just before we get on with the main subject of the show, is there any chance you could shout out while I was over in the US of A? I don't know if he's still there. Looks unlikely.
He actually looks like, the way it's frozen, he looks like a mushroom from his background.
Like he's had that background for a year. Like it's been so good. Yeah.
Full commitment to the bit. I love it.
Yeah, Nathan, I don't know if you would mind shouting out Nate Trentinelli, your biggest fan over in the USA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey up, Nate Trentinelli. How you doing?
No, his name's Nate. Nate, not mate.
Nate. Yeah.
Yeah, Nate.
Yeah, mate Trentinelli.
Nate, me mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, matey Trentinelli.
Yep.
Do you want to shout him
mate.
out?
Hello.
Perfect. That's all.
Nate.
I think you just made someone's day, which is lovely. Most professional shout out ever. That's absolutely true.
I don't know what you're supposed to do for a shout out.
I don't think anyone knows what you're meant to do for a shout out. I think that's the key point. Okay.
Well, then I've nailed it.
You
Just
have
get some
nailed
air
it.
horns next time. Like,
Yeah, so did you, Nate, so you've been writing more lists. What are you most excited about? You said you're excited about grabbing and holding objectives.
Yeah. So I want to try, I do think I want to try the bigger blocks of goblins so they can go in 60s. So, yeah, try a couple of them and see if I can grab objectives and keep people at bay. Obviously, if they've got bounty hunters, it could be a problem. My 40 grots did get hit by 10 brutes who were bounty hunters, and they had the war chanter buff on them. And there were probably 6 left after that encounter. But then I had this beautiful rally thing, and then by the end of the game, they were virtually all back. So, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I feel like those big blocks of, and it's going to probably tie in with my key theme, I think, at the end. In the main subject of the show. But before we do that, let's quickly talk about news. The first piece of news is, of course, that Warcry, new Warcry, is being released or has been released. Is anyone here, Adam, Nathan, Dan? I haven't kept up with it super much. I know there's a Hushut unit, but there are no dwarfs, and therefore it is a piece of shit. They actually look like nice sculpts, whatever. But is any of you three Warcry players and or interested in Warcry? Adam, we'll kick it off with you. Thoughts?
I couldn't care less.
Okay, that seems super fun.
And I honestly, a game I don't care about, I might just try and get it cancelled.
Play.
Because I thought that's the theme.
That seems super fair. Nathan, what about you?
No, I've not played it. It looks fun, but yeah, I've not had the opportunity or the inclination really to play it.
Okay, that seems fair. I think actually it's. I'll say my bit at the end. Dan, yourself, good sir.
I've played a couple of games of it, and it wasn't really for me. But I have absolutely. There's 2 of the warbands I've bought and just painted as like a building painting challenge because I really liked them. But the game itself doesn't grab me very much.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, so I personally think there's something I'd like to get into this year. Just like throwing it out there. Obviously, pay for almost none of it if possible. But I would. I will also put all of the books inside my phone, Adam. Yeah. To waterproof them, as you did at
Just
the weekend.
make sure your phone's charged.
Yes, of course. Yes, that is the key.
And that if you're sleeping in a field, you can run an extension cable to yourself.
As long as, yeah, exactly. But I just think.
Big brain.
I think it could be a very cool additional game to throw into the mix. I really do think that. I'm not necessarily like Like I've painted a lot of armies over the past few weeks. I've been super busy. Like I painted 3 armies. Me and Adam went to an event. Then I did some other event, and then I was in America and we did another event. There was a lot happening. Like it's been a lot happening, and it's going to continue to be. We've got an event at the arena this weekend. And I think there's a couple of tickets left. I think there's 2 tickets left for this weekend. If anyone wants to come and play at the TSN arena this weekend in Nottingham, I'm trying to play myself. I'm hoping to sell just the right amount of tickets so I can play myself, but that's a side note.
If you want to see the Cockatrice meta in person, come to the event.
Yeah, to play. Yeah. I'm gonna run. I think I'm just gonna run the same Zinch list basically, but so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, but yeah, I think Warcry could be that really fun game, and I've said this time and time again. I think that maybe those games are a little bit more streamable, a little bit more interactive, and maybe a little bit more digestible. But again, I haven't played it in detail, so I was hoping one of you 3 had, but doesn't seem that to be true at the moment. So maybe in the future. The train from Warcry's Mint says Learning Tiny in the chat. Worth it just for that, making beautiful AOS boards. I've got loads of printers to make nice boards. And then Genetic Beast Lobster says Warcry's like vanilla ice cream. It exists. That's about it. In the world of Ben and Jerry's, it has no place. Wow. Interesting. Thinks it's a bit plain. Okay.
I love vanilla ice cream.
I was going to say, vanilla ice cream is pretty great.
A good vanilla bean ice cream? Oh, feed it to me.
Okay, it's a bit.
I just like it 'cause it's the cheapest one.
Says the guy in a field with his phone charger and his ice cream, just being like,
like the own brand ice cream. That like when you take it out, it's got like ice crystals in it, but you're like, you know what, this is fine.
Oh God, you need to live.
Actually, also great point from Deirdre in the chat. Thank you very much. Warcry, very tentable game.
Okay, yeah.
Like a game that's very
tentable. Age of Sigmar.
I suppose Age of Sigmar is also very tentable, I guess. I don't think you put a whole board inside of a tent.
That's what you think.
Depends on the tent.
Yeah, buy a bigger tent.
That's true.
Mine was £10 on Facebook.
I'm not thinking about it, right? That's my problem. Okay. All right. So Warcry's out. LRL and Zinch on the horizon. Which is what we're waiting for, which pretty much gets us to the main point of today's show, which is pretty speedy, 51 minutes, to be honest. So main point of today's show is where we're at in the competitive meta and or mega game, which is quite fun. Because I've got some thoughts and feelings, like top level, having done the stat show every week since, been to a few events, I've been to events doing coverage and played. So I think there's a lot going on. So I think there's some really interesting kind of stuff, because when the game initially started, I think there's some stuff I would initially like to jump off and say, I think I was wrong on that front, and I wonder what you guys think. My first port of call is, and then just basically for anyone who's new, to kind of catch up, so you can kind of jump in, where the fuck is going on? What's going on with Age of Sigmar? There's a couple of people who I think with the new book are excited to play New Age of Sigmar, so I thought we could maybe catch them up with where they are at a competitive level. So my kind of first port of call is when the book came out, or the Gallet Battle Pack, I thought that the battle tactics were quite hard to achieve, but I've 180'd on that 100%, and they're super easy to achieve.
If not easier.
If not easier, I agree with Adam 100%. Nathan, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they are. They're not difficult. They're just a bit wordy. That's all. Like the description and everything makes them. They're not very intuitively written, I would say.
I would deeply agree with that. Yeah, I don't think they make a lot of sense at first reading for people, but I would agree. So Adam, you agree? Nathan, you agree? Quite achievable.
Yeah.
Easy, because the old battle tactics were things like slay the warlord. You had to kill the general, or there would be bring it down, or the broken ranks to kill a battle line, and it meant you had to kill a specific thing. Whereas there's 2 now that are just kill a thing.
Yeah.
So an eye for an eye, you don't actually declare what unit you're killing. You just say, I'm going to do an eye for an eye. You failed to kill one unit, but you might have killed another unit, so you get it. Or the not out muscle, gaining momentum. If I've already got more objectives than you at the start of my turn, I can do that one and just pick a unit that has one thing left in it, murder it. I've got another battle tactic. So that's 2 battle tactics that are easier than the 3 kill ones that we had before.
Yeah, that's.
I think
Oh, go on. Sorry, Dan, after you.
No, the read for me is that the previous ones I think were easier to achieve, but they were very specific in that your turn had to be focused on them, where the current ones feel more like they actually just play into the game you're already playing and create subtle changes rather than being like slay the warlord, everything in my army this turn focuses on the enemy warlord. Whereas this one, I think it's just the way it impacts the game. And yeah, they're poorly written, so when you first read them, they're really complex. But as you start playing, you're like, oh, this actually plays into my game plan a lot more than like pick a battle line, kill a battle line. You're like, usually what you would do is you'd pick the previous ones when you knew you could achieve them. You're like, oh, this is, I'm about to charge a unit of battle line, so I'm going to kill him this turn, so I may as well do that one. Rather than this, which is like more, it just feels like it plays more into a game rather than a turn.
Yeah, I definitely think they like do the, what's it called? Like they play your turn better. So like out muscle, you have to kill a Galician veteran on the proving ground. So like what you can do if you're going second, you can plan your turn around that one by making it the proving ground something that's already got one of their Galician veterans on.
That was actually going to be my follow-up. But Nathan, just any of your thoughts before we kind of like get into that?
No. I'm quite happy. I think, I think they're just a bit of a faff to read through when you're trying to decide which one to do. It's not like, you can't just snap through them like you could with the old ones. Like, there's a bit of a read through. You have to interpret each one. Yeah, so I suppose it'll get easier as you play it more often. But yeah, they are quite hard just to glance at and immediately know what's what.
Yeah, well, so I'm just going to go through, I think, the 4 easiest ones just for a moment, if that's okay, and just talk about how I think, my personal opinion, see what everyone thinks, how that changes kind of the meta list building element, which I think is actually quite cool. So, first thing, is against all odds, which is basically hold an objective. Okay? Like, against in the very
that is a joke of a battle tactic.
It's basically just hold an objective. That's all it is. Hold an objective, but no Galician veterans from the enemy. And so it's a great turn one. I know. Ooh, it's a great turn one objective. Okay,
it's a fantastic turn 5-1.
It's also a great turn 5-1, and I think actually that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. That actually, I think these battle tactics for me feel very much like they orientate you towards being a low drop. And we'll talk about some stats on that in a minute. Low drop, and then you do some other stuff. So that's just hold an objective. You've got desecrate their lands, which is control an objective in their territory, which can be not even wholly within, can be partially within.
That's a terrain feature, yeah.
Terrain feature, yeah, sorry. A terrain feature, which is also super easy, in my opinion.
And don't forget you hold terrain as you go. So you can hold it, put a token down, go away from it, go back later and say, I'll desecrate lands. I already control that piece.
Perfect. You can also the holding for a piece of terrain is 3 inches, not 6 inches. You measure models from 3 inches and not 6, which is also something really good. Hayes in the chat saying that's amazing, Adam. I had no idea. There we go. That's why I thought we'd go through it, because I think that there's actually loads of little tips and tricks in this version of the game, and I think we've played enough now to kind of level ourselves all up a little bit by conversation. So there's desecrate the lands, then there's barge through enemy lines, which is 2 units in your opponent's territory, and as Adam has pointed out, if they're both Galician veteran units, there's an additional bonus point. That's also one that's on some battle plans very easy to achieve turn 1.
It won me game 5.
There you go, and with an additional point. So a little point. And then the 4th one is eye for an eye, which is your opponent killed something last turn, and therefore you kill something this turn, which feels like a great little one to grab. So with all 4 of those, I think being the very easiest to achieve every single game, it felt like to me personally, and feels like. I don't know if you disagree or agree. Nathan, Adam, you got any thoughts?
Definitely. I think against all odds, I probably did that one 90% of the time, first turn. Because it is just against no odds to do. And I'd agree. The rest of them are just part of the flow of the game as well. So they just occur as you're playing through the game. So yeah, they're not overly difficult to get. So yeah.
So we just had a question in the chat. What's the terrain control rule again? So it's like a controlling an objective, but it's models within 3 inches as opposed to models within 6 inches that it is for an objective. Super easy, and that's quite fun because I think that's one of those ones that I definitely haven't deployed in my first several games thinking about it, but now I've started to be like, okay. Actually, that one unit, sometimes you got that one unit that's meant to be a screen or it's in your list to do something, and then you're just kind of like, I'm not really sure where it works in this particular mission, and you're like, okay, it's just going to eyeball that piece of terrain directly across the way. Feels like a really nice setup, so that's quite fun. But then, go on, Dan.
I was just going to say chaffy flying units. They're like screamers and things like that. They're cheap, they're quick for it because they can zip around the board just like going terrain.
A cockatrice, maybe.
Because they count as 5.
Perchance a teleported squigobber. Perchance.
It's happened.
It's happened. So yeah, I think that's.
But I like the token thing though, because it means it's not so much a gotcha moment where you're like, oh, blah blah blah, and this, and just so you know, I control all of these objects. Like you're making it really clear, like just to put it out there, if we're talking competitively, you're making it clear to your opponent that you're tracking the terrain that you control.
Just don't tell them that's what the token's for. That's the fun one. So you just put tokens around the terrain that you control.
Gotcha, gamey piece of shit.
And then
this token.
As you go back, you go, oh yeah, these tokens were for me controlling the terrain.
Says the guy who's like, we put together a group of people because we don't want to cheat or be dicks in games. He's like, also, don't tell your opponents what the shit on the board means. That way they can't know.
Just putting tokens around.
It's putting tokens around. Right, okay. So like the thing I wanted to bring up with battle tactics then is because there are obviously other battle tactics, but I think those are the 4 that if we were to collect the stats on it, which we can't because we don't have any scoring software that does so, I think those would be the 4 that you see scored most often, in my personal opinion. The kind of follow-up from that is that I think actually this really promotes the ability to go first, get the choice to go first. Like, I think that there's a couple of reasons for that, because the battle plans themselves in some ways are very detrimental to some army builds. Some battle plans are very tough to some army builds, like to the point where you're like, maybe they should be banned from tournaments, maybe not. The no teleporting one pretty much wrecks Sylvaneth, but I mean, that's great. Yep. So let's carry that.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible mission.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything other than just fuck up Sylvaneth, really.
I mean, it's just an awful mission as well.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like work out who's on the objectives. Am I wholly in this one? Am I wholly that one? The intent of that mission is just terrible. But
and I agree with that. Personally, I agree with that. Next bit of news, if we're going to just talk about battalions, because I think one of the first things that we talked about with this new Gallet battle pack is obviously those 2 new fucking battalions. They're super exciting. 1 battalion, you can have up to 3 troop units inside of it, and they count as 3 for every 1 model in the unit. So you've got a 10-man unit, 10-person unit, sorry. It's going to be 30. Yeah, it's going to count as 30, right? Unmatched Conquerors is what it's called. And then the other one is Bounty Hunters. Which has got loads of chat at the start of the edition, which is obviously you get +1 damage against Galician veterans, which are battle line units that are 5 or less wounds and aren't mounted. Okay. So Nathan, I'll kick off with you. How do you feel so far? About those 2 battalions in the game state as is?
So yeah, obviously my lists tend to have loads of Galician veterans because I like to play with little grots. Everybody does. So so I feel like the Bounty Hunters is picking on them a bit, but yeah, it's been manageable so far in my limited experience. It's not been as devastating as I thought. It's that battle plan where they get extra points for killing Galician veterans. That's more devastating than that battalion.
That's a stupid battle plan.
That is a terrible, terrible mission.
Okay, all right, all three of us agree
But
on that.
you want to play a Soulblight Gravefields player, like I did on Game 3, that keeps bringing them back for you.
He's like, my entire allegiance ability is bringing these dead units back, and you're like, thanks for the more victory points. That's
Yeah,
great.
he'd be going to roll for the units to come back, and I'm like, come on, baby, get that 4+. Bring them back.
Feed them to me. That's amazing. Adam, how do you feel about the two battalions at the moment? What are your thoughts?
I thought they'd be interesting, but I think they're both terrible. I just you can't compare with the battle regiment.
No, so for new people, the ability to go like battle regiment is your whole army fits in, and it's a 1-drop.
That's still a lot stronger, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I thought bounty hunters would be like good. Like, I took it, but then it only affected like 1 or 2 of my games. And the thing is, the things that I'm putting in bounty hunters kill the Galician veterans anyway.
Yes.
So like it didn't really matter. The only time it mattered was when I went into some Blight Kings, because then I was like, oh, the extra damage here is actually really useful. And then Expert Conquerors, like it's kind of okay, like it's a good one, but again, then it's being countered by the bounty hunters, which people are taking, and the things that you put in it are quite killable anyway.
Yeah, there's some interesting kind of like stat information actually where we can go to with this, and mainly talking about like meta representation. So the most popular army is Dan. Have a guess.
Oh, most popular this edition?
Yeah. Just in 3.3 since Gallet came out only.
Nurgle.
Okay, so it's Stormcast.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Still at 10%.
I mean, it's still the box boys.
Yeah,
Fair
still
enough.
the box boys. They're at 10% of the meta. But the next two, Nighthaunt and Daughters of Cain, both. And they're both 7% of the meta. So combined, they're 14% of the competitive meta, more than Stormcast. But they have an interesting thing in that both of those two armies have got the ability to reduce damage down by 1. But they also are big Galician veteran units, which I kind of find, like, it's kind of odd, right? You're like, okay, bounty hunters will do really well into Galician veterans, like Nighthaunt, but then they reduce damage down by 1. So I don't know if everyone's taking like lots of damage 1 stuff that turns to damage 2 that turns back to damage 1.
Goes back to damage 1, yeah.
Or if anyone's got any damage 2 stuff that becomes damage 3 down to damage 2, right? And then similarly, Daughters of Cain, although generally the builds that are doing well aren't using the Heart of Cain or whatever it's called to reduce. I don't think it's called that, but whatever it's called.
Yeah, Heart of Cain.
Okay,
yeah.
To reduce. Thank you so much. To reduce the damage down by 1 to a minimum of 1. So, like, I'm not really sure at the moment, like on the kind of like the plus damage reduction, because it only really works if you go into the right units, right?
Yeah, I think when they first came out, I remember the like excitement was mostly for bounty hunters. You know, like that, like it wasn't the additional bodies. It was everyone was like so fucking, and that's all they were talking about. Like, oh, how fucked is this going to be? How good is this going to be? And then which is the same every edition. That's how it starts. And then I think people started to use it and realize they either didn't need it, or it wasn't anywhere near as effective as they wanted it to be. And I would agree with Adam. Almost any other day, I'd want an additional artifact or an additional spell slot, or like I'd be going for those kind of things, or a 1-drop, or like to reduce my drops far before I would be worrying about potentially doing an extra point of damage in certain circumstances to a certain type of unit. Or honestly, even counting as 3 is great, but largely the stuff that does count as 3 is the stuff that almost any army can take off. Like it's so I find them interesting, and I think everyone got super excited about them at the start. But I think we're now seeing them tail off as people realize like they seem like the new hotness in the moment, but they're just on the table, not as strong in play.
They're great in certain books, like Expert Conquerors in Nighthaunt is insane.
Nurgle.
Yeah, like those are like amazing. Like you have like 60 blade guys all counting as 3. Mental.
Yeah.
Or units of 5 Rotbringers, like the Blight Kings, which, you know, their whole thing was that they struggled for numbers. Like it's great to give them those options, but I think that's it. They're going to be the kind of thing that are great for certain books, whereas Battle Regiment, I'm trying to think of books that can take it, that it doesn't help massively.
I think where they've ended up settling with the expert conquerors like counters 3. Sure, I've read a lot of lists that have had like 20 plague bearers as an example. Yeah, that good one. 5 blight kings that counters 15. But like on the whole, a lot of lists that I've seen have been like, I'm going to use 5 tree revenants. They'll be my expert conquerors because they're 15. So it just gives them that ability to ping onto an objective a little bit nicer. A little 10-person unit here. Generally, I don't see people building into it, or it doesn't seem as like meta changing as it possibly could be. I think with bounty hunters, you kind of build your list, and then you say to yourself, do I want 2 of these units to be bounty hunters? Like, that's kind of where I think people are looking at. But it has to really, because your list also has to not be a 1-drop, right? So you've got to say to yourself, I'm not going to take the 1-drop. I personally think the 1-drop is still the smartest play, especially playing into, when we'll talk about this later, there's going to be KO, they're going to be more and more prevalent, and they're going to alpha you, which I think is key. And I think having the ability to dictate that first turn, is going to be very, very important, and something people need to be conscious of. But the expert conquerors and bounty hunters, I think, is really good. Okay, I don't know. Anyone got any more thoughts on this?
I think the only time I take them is if it's the units that don't fit in my battle regiment.
Yeah.
So I've already got 5 units in my battle regiment. I've got 2 more units. Which one will they go in? Cool, that'll do it. And then I'll take a 3-drop army rather than a 1-drop army because I need those extra 2 units anyway.
Yeah.
Or you swap it around, right? Like you're like okay. I'll take out the very good units out there. They're going in bounty hunters now, or whatever. Yeah, or whatever the situation.
Because they just don't fit. So, I might as well put them in that.
Yeah. So that they're giving you something, but and I think just in the chat as well, Hazel's pointing out, you've got units like Sharks and Eels that are Ren 2/2 damage, so they almost need it if they come up against armies that reduce their damage down to 1.
Just take a 1-drop and shoot them off.
But I think it is. But when you break it down into specific books, absolutely they're going to need it. But on the whole, I think that's where they're really awesome. Those 2, they give armies that have elite infantry without bodies the ability to count as bodies on objectives, and they do give some of those armies that focus on a small number of high damage attacks and ability to get around damage reduction abilities. But on the whole, they're not an easy choice for every single army because they are not as good as a lot of the other options.
Some armies are just built different as well. You want more characters. Soulblight Gravelord's a good example. You just want a few more characters. Probably Nighthaunt, you just want a few more characters. In order to put that in, because Battle Regiment max you can have is 3. Right, so then you probably you can't really fit that in, and then some armies really struggle to produce because then Battle Regiment is 3 and 6, right? So then you really struggle to create an army built inside that framework, maximum 3 characters, and then maximum 6 units, because your battle line needs to be 5 units. Sorry, so you because your 3 battle line, then your 2 big hitters, and then maybe a monster or an artillery piece. So I think some armies just don't really fit into that framework. But I would say that there's a really nice and elegant, and a compliment to Games Workshop, whether they intended it or not, an elegant kind of metagame internally and list writing at the moment between building your lists, understanding where your likelihood to go first is, or get the choice to go first, into a battle plan against opponents with battle tactics in mind. I think that seems like a fair statement. I don't know what you think there. That seems fair.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, so I've got some numbers for you guys. And if you already know this because you listened earlier, then none of this. So shout out to Ziggy and Rob from the Stat Center for being able to produce some info for me. Okay, so last edition without these battalions. Last edition. What percentage chance did you have the chance to go first? Basically, if you had a 1-drop, how likely was it based on the average? And of course, as you get further up in a tournament, you're going to play someone else, right, who probably also has a 1-drop as an example because they're very good. So it's just the average. You can't ever really properly work it out, but it's going to roughly as an average. If you had a 1-drop in the last edition, so that's over the course of a year, loads of data on this, how likely were you to be able to get the choice to go first? And while you guys are thinking about it, I want to thank Think Before You Skink for donating a gift sub, Dan Brook for resubscribing. That's lovely of you. Thank you very much. I thank Shintaro for donating a gift subscription. That's wicked. Thanks everyone in the chat for being awesome. Let's start with you, Nathan. Come on, give me a I know you hate numbers. No, well, you don't hate them. What are you thinking, baby? What are you thinking?
I reckon you're probably more likely than not if you got one drop. So
Last edition. Last edition.
Yeah, last edition. There were lots of one drops around though, but so I'm going to say 67.8%.
Perfect. I love a point. That's how we do the stats. That's how we do the stats. Like, into decimal places. Can't wait till Robin Ziggy that. Adam, last edition.
I don't know, 72.
Okay, perfect. Dan, last edition.
Oh, I'm going to go hot 75 because I feel like 3/4 seems about right to me.
Okay, wow. Okay. Guess what, Adam? You were beat by 1 point. Apologies. It's 74. Well done, Dan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah!
Absolutely
Adam
nailed
can
it.
win 5 games, but he can't pick a percent. Get back in your field, son.
All right, good. All right, so...
I mean, it's true.
Okay, so now... this is where it gets quite interesting. And again, we don't have all of the... Like, we've got the data we have so far. It's not as much of a data set, obviously, as the last edition, because we can only go on how many tournaments we've got so far. But has that number gone up or down? Nathan?
Is this like higher or lower?
Yeah, higher or lower. Has it gone up or down, baby?
Higher. It's around 82.6%.
Wow, big. Hey, wow, David Smith, thanks so much for donating 10 gift subs. What a babe. Thank you so much. Amazing. Okay, Adam, higher or lower?
Well, I definitely think it's higher, because I think there was only 4 drops at this whole event that I was at the weekend. 4 1-drops.
4 1-drops.
Yeah.
So you think...
And they were all in the top 10, but, you know.
Won't mention that. Okay, so you think higher. What are you thinking?
Higher.
Okay, perfect. And
What
then Dan?
number?
I think it's gone down. I think it's gone down.
Okay. Well, because of the new battle battalions, right? Because previously...
I think that I don't think it's going to stay down. Right. But I think because of the new battalions that people have been all saucy and excited about, they've been trying the new battalions, which will have reduced it temporarily. Then people will be like, it's not as good, and then it'll go back up.
Okay. Doesn't it work the other way around? Because
Yeah.
if other people are taking more battalions, then you've got more chance of taking the first turn.
Oh
because
yeah,
you've got
true.
The one drop. Yeah.
Never mind. Up then. Up.
You are all correct once we've worked out together.
You definitely had me questioning my answer then.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit.
Yeah, I was like, you've just taken my reasoning. Come to the wrong direction. What's going on?
Did I
Well...
do the wrong thing here? Like...
Okay, so it's gone up to 85%. If you have a 1-drop, you've got the choice to go first 85% of the time. Yeah, shit. Shit.
I was out.
Just take a 1-drop.
They take a 1-drop. Yeah, and I think that actually that might become more and more telling as time goes on, especially with some of the lists that we're seeing come to the fore, because that's more common. Probably one of the better 1-drops back in the day was probably obviously the Sentinels, so Lumineth Realm Lords, and a bunch of
Until they get beaten by cockatrices.
Yeah, okay, Adam. Yes, that's true, 100%. Or with the Tzeentch Archeon, before obviously it got nerfed, was also a pretty dominant 1-build list, 1-drop list. And for people who are new, 1-drop is you put your armies in battalions. You've got the number of drops you have for when you deploy your army, and then you get the choice. Whoever's got the lowest drops gets the choice to go first. So I think that's pretty telling, because I personally think the 1-drop is incredibly effective in this version of the edition, because we cycle back to what I was saying about battle tactics. I think you've got a load of options, especially on some of the battle plans. You've got the ability to give your opponent the turn, activate an objective in one of the battle plans is pretty strong. Giving your opponent the turn and then choosing a proving ground seals...
That is the most powerful mechanic at the moment.
It feels very strong. Adam, just quickly explain that again to people, because new people might not know what we're talking about.
So if you go second in a turn, you can make one of the objectives on the battlefield a proving ground, which essentially means that, well, it does mean that only Galician veterans can control it.
Yeah.
But if you put the Proving Ground on an objective you already own, and let's say they don't have any Galician veterans near it, there's no way they can take it off of you, even if you've got no Galician veterans on it.
Of
You
course.
use it so that it forces so they cannot take one of your objectives for a turn.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it's really good. Nathan, how have you felt about? Because that was kind of going to be my next question. Galician veterans, Proving Ground, because it kind of moves us into that. Because I think the one drop moves into that.
Before we move on from the
Yeah, go
one
on,
drop
Dan.
thing, can I ask where the incarnate then falls into that? Like if we're
I
looking
was
at a
gonna-
percentage of one drops going first and then into incarnates and the success of incarnates in veteran events. Or we'll get to that later.
I think I was going to bring up incarnates, endless spells, a bunch of other stuff later.
Yeah. Cool.
But I think the ability to drop, you're in a weird place with an incarnate because if people don't know, when you kill it, it doesn't die. Well, when you drop it a level, it doesn't like die. So you've got to drop it 2. If you've got the option turn 1 to drop it a level, so when they charge you, they kill something, but then you can drop it at the final level. That kind of puts you in a nice place. That interaction with incarnates is something we should definitely talk about because I also think that's pretty key. But as Adam pointed out, or might point out, incarnates are incredible because they fit in your monster slot in your battle reg. Like, they're perfect. Like, you're like, what monster? And then you're like, look at Cities of Sigmar, you're like, maybe a Charybdis? And you're like, no, fucking incarnate.
And as you have that thought, there's actually the Warhammer TV app. They've got this really cool function that I like, which is a hand reaches out of the screen and just backhands you if you think about putting a Charybdis in that slot. It's great. It's really good.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the incarnate more in a bit, but it fits super well into that battalion, right? Like just slots right in. Nathan obviously also a squid gobber does too, but we don't need to talk about that.
So do chimeras.
Yeah, so Chimera's really good actually. Like, how do you
Amazing.
do it now?
I don't know. You just summoned one.
250. Oh, okay, fair. It's fair.
They're for
Easier.
free.
For free. Yeah.
Don't have to think about how much it is if you never pay the points for it. Yeah.
Nathan, what are your thoughts about specifically Proving Grounds?
Oh yeah, really interesting mechanic. Obviously, for me, with playing with Galician veterans, I think it's pretty strong. Although I tend to use multiple drop armies, I find my opponent is using them more than I am, and then quite often they're using them defensively. So just getting them out the way so that I can't then turn them into Proving Grounds later on in the game, which is, a valid tactic, a valid way of playing the game, with playing with the Proving Grounds. That is so.
Yeah. Okay. I think the Proving Grounds are pretty interesting. Because they really come to the fore on some battle plans, and then some battle plans they really don't, which kind of maybe will fit into my whole meta narrative of my point later that I think this is a real players edition. But I think that there's a really good show we could do next week where we actually go through the battle plans and then we discuss Galician we talk about Proving Grounds, we talk about going first, we talk about some sort of tactics for going through it, because I think there's actually a lot to say there, on each individual battle plan, right? Going first, going second, all those other things. But we'll do that next week. That's not today. The other thing to talk about with Proving Grounds is Galician veterans. I guess that's kind of the key point. I guess that really ties also in with bounty hunters, Galician veterans, and how we feel about that as a kind of a whole thing. Adam, do you want to kick us off? What do you think?
I think big units of Galician veterans aren't very good, and taking lots of them is a terrible idea, just in case the Mighty and the Cunning mission comes up, because in that mission, they're an extra 2 points to your opponent. But I definitely think you want to have 2 units of the cheapest Galician veterans that you can have, to try and get the extra point on barge through.
Okay, so why is it that you want the extra point on barge through? So which is a battle tactic, by the way. It's a battle tactic, so you can score 2 points for being in your opponent's territory, and an additional 1 if both units are Galician veterans. Yeah. Why?
So a lot of this GHB, because every mission bar 1, I think, is score 1, 2, or more now. It means that you max have realistically, you've max got 5 points that you can score a turn. So if you can get that one additional point in one of your turns, you've then made your opponent essentially have a point deficit for the rest of the game. And then they've got to try and make up that point. And if you can keep then just controlling more and do a battle tactic, you just win the game potentially by a point, which has happened, I think, twice over my weekend, where I was just playing the primary and getting a battle tactic, getting that one additional point is what won me the game.
Interesting. Very interesting. Because I've got a thought on this. Nathan, you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that because it is indicating that the games are a lot closer a lot of the time as well. So it's pretty. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I approve that tactic. Winning by 1 point is a great way to do it.
Great way. Yeah. Well, actually, that's going to bring me. I think, really nicely into the scoring and scores, and also the battle plans. So I think there's kind of two things to say in conjunction. So these kind of, I'll fire them off rapid fire. I think the scores in these missions are way closer than we've ever seen. Way closer. You don't get an extra bonus point for killing a monster, so there aren't these kind of like point swings knocking around. I generally I think even going down on a point on hold more in the first turn can be disastrous for the course of the game. Obviously, failing, but I think failing your battle tactic in the last version of Age of Sigmar, so Age of Sigmar 3 to 3.2, you could maybe claw it back. But I think if you lose it now, you're fucked. Like in some cases,
100%.
Like
100%.
Like because they're quite easy. Like they're quite easy to do generally, and so losing them puts you in a really bad position, in my opinion. So I think the scoring is mega close, but parallel conjunction combined with that statement, some of the battle plans are fucked, so they're not.
It's like 3 missions that are just atrocious.
Yes, right.
But the rest of them are genuinely amazing.
Yeah,
I think the thing is, there's always been those missions, but they just. Is it just me, or does it feel like they never had as big an impact on how armies played? You know, like there was total commitment, and I remember a lot of events back in the what was that, GHB1, GHB2, or like would put total commitment in for those lists that would just deploy all off the table and then alpha strike. But these ones feel more egregious in shutting down like all of the abilities of certain books.
Yeah, there's a really good question in the chat from Stormy Blessed. Doesn't that sort of make it feel worse? There's only one battle tactic you can score extra on, whereas last GHB there were at least multiple options. Yeah, I think that the metagame. Okay, so chess is solved, right? You take your pieces, you win the game, right? Like, you know, that's what you do. You do the checkmate. You don't even need to take the pieces, as an example, as Adam kind of proved this weekend. But the game state being solved doesn't necessarily cause a problem or any friction, in my opinion. What it then means is both players understand what's happening, and then it becomes about like, oh, I weren't expecting you to go that way, or shit, you rolled bad dice there. Becomes a little bit more RNG in some ways, but also a little bit more fun and fucky in others. And I think you can play better, which is probably the conclusion of my generally the conclusion of where I'm at the moment is I think you can play better. So I think that it being like, because now with this conversation had, the next time I go to a tournament, which hopefully will be this weekend, hopefully we'll sell a few more tickets, and then I'll just be playing like I'll be the bottom table ringer, but also smashing fucking people. Yeah, like I'm gonna be like, they're like, oh, I'm playing the bottom table guy, and I'm gonna just ruin them. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be actively at this event because we're still so early in the edition. We should still be trying to play better than we were earlier, right? Yeah, and
I went 3-2 at Clash, and I thought I played atrociously. And then literally by just playing those 5 games, when I played at the weekend, I felt like I was a level up from most of the people there.
Yeah, like so I'm going to try and block off desecrate their lands. Like I'm going to be conscious of that, right? I'm going to be like, what can I do to sort that? I'm going to see what units they're going to try and use to get into my deployment. Like, can't do much about Eye for an Eye. Can't do much about them grabbing an objective, and that one's a pretty easy one. But like
That really hard one.
yeah,
That's
super.
against the odds.
Against
that one
all
is.
the fucking odds, I achieved it. I think it's a sarcastic. You got to say it sarcastically. Against all odds, I did this. Yeah. So where were we? Somewhere. Where were we in this?
Yeah, you were saying it makes you play better because it's all closer and
the scores
you
aren't
both
as
know
bigger
what you-
blowouts.
Yeah.
Oh, so scoring and missions is really what I was talking about. So a couple of points. Scoring, I think, is much closer. What do you three generally tend to think?
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So
It's
seems like-
really I've found it to be really positive. I when you see a blowout now, it stands out, whereas previously, like, kind of the top tables, I expected them consistently. You know, like whoever won often won by a blowout, and it was exciting when you had a tight game because they were so rare. Whereas I feel like I'm seeing tight games more, which I guess is also part people getting their handle on the new edition. But it's nice. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so then in conjunction with that, I think the battle plans can be so, as Adam has pointed out, so terrible for some armies. I played at Clash. Yeah, I played a wonderful person playing Sylvaneth. They were an absolute treasure. Yeah, and they just couldn't teleport their army. And they were running a Dreadwood army that had 2 teleports in their army. So they literally chosen a sub-faction for a double teleport. They then bought into, because in Dreadwood, you can teleport a unit of Spite Revenants, yeah? And then he'd upgraded it to a maximum unit of 15 and was like, let's go. So he was all in. All of the points. I think his command trait was also teleporting or something as well. All of it was in. He was like, let's do this, Rob. Let's absolutely go. And it was like,
No.
battle plan, no teleports. And he was just like, what the fuck? I moved 5
I played
factions.
Math Mallow on that mission with
Did
Dreadwood.
you? With Sylvaneth? With
Yeah, he was
Dreadwood?
using the Dreadwood. And do you know what my battle plan was?
Tell me. Battle tactic. Sorry.
No, just literally my whole battle plan
Oh,
for
yeah.
that was to literally sit there and go, hold!
You're
And then
so
anytime-
slow!
Anytime we took an objective, I'd summon it on from the board edge because the whole quadrant is the objective.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, the whole because it's also all 4 table edge quarters are objectives,
There's no
right?
teleporting, but you can still summon.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, you fucker.
It's
Yeah.
an awful mission. Awful mission. I had a great time, but it is an awful mission.
But I would say, in my personal opinion, all of the missions should be announced ahead of time because we
Yeah.
effectively
Yeah,
had
for
a
sure.
we had a non-game, and then also when you happen to play someone in the battle plan where you get bonus points versus Galician veterans, I also feel like that's such a detriment to that particular army that you've got to announce the battle plans ahead of time before list submission. I feel like
Yeah, I think you have to now. Like, you actually have to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sure, some people will be like, no, Rob, I'm not going to do all of them. I'll say that these 7. I'm like, fine, say that it's those 7. But at least tell me that the problem ones, and again, we'll go through a whole show doing this next week, the problem ones, and then we'll talk about, and we're not going to talk about them as problems, we're going to talk about tactics for next week. That's what we're going to do. So, like, I think you have to announce them ahead of time. Because, Nathan, if you know that the one where you give up points for Galician veterans is in the mission, you're probably not going to change your list at all, are you?
I'm probably not, but I think a lot of people would like to know, and they would change their lists. And so don't do it just for me. Do it for everybody.
Okay, that's nice of you.
And I actually see the argument for not announcing ahead of time, and I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of not announcing all of them, but I like announce 7, do 5 because it's like, let's say you showed up to a race and they were like, okay, it's going to be a 20-kilometer race. You're like, oh, bloody hell, I'm ready. So you train, you put your fucking socks on, your shoes and whatnot, and you get there and they're like, heads up, the last 10 kilometers is on bike. So I hope you brought your bicycle. Surprise, it's now a triathlon and you also need to swim. And you were like, oh, fuck, I didn't actually prepare at all for this and I didn't bring what I need to be able to do that. It's the same for this. Like, when there was total commitment, people still brought entire Stormcast armies. They just either prepared or planned for how to play that mission, you know? Like, it doesn't, like, the argument like, oh, if you tell people that's there, no one's going to play Sylvaneth. Yes, they will. They'll just design or be ready for that mission.
Yeah. Okay, so next, there was also a point being made in the chat, which I think is really good. If you already take Galician veterans like Nathan does, you're still just going to fucking take them, right? But I don't think you're necessarily going to change your list, like Alden talks about. If you're taking Daughters of Cain, you're not necessarily going to change your bow snakes out for Doomfire Warlocks because they're just not the same. Like, you're just going to run the risk, right? But maybe you change your battalions around. Maybe you try and be a lower drop so you can kind of.
But maybe you change to, like, I played at Clash. I played Simon, who had his Sigmar army, and he was like, "Yeah, I really want to try Galician veterans at this event." And then because he didn't realize that mission was in the pack, and then he had 6 Galician veterans that were really easy to kill, and I won the game just on that.
Whereas
he
that
could
alone.
have swapped to anything,
Yeah.
and he still could have had 2-3 units. That he, at least then he knew that mission was coming up, and that game was a really fun game. But literally at the start of it, he went, "Cool, you win," and it was a bit shit because of that, and that actually didn't ruin my game with him, but like it just put a downer on it.
Because you knew you had a very like it was a checkbox. It was like kill the units that are easy to kill, tick, win the game, tick. So you're
I
like,
didn't
there is
score the primary in some
there's no
terms.
reason. Yeah, you had no reason to play any other game other than kill the easy to kill units. And you're like, cool. So you just holding a grenade in a lake, being like, going fishing, like
Yeah, literally. It was just like awful mission. But I think if it's in the pack, at least then the people that still want to play the Galician veterans are like, well, I knew it was there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I just think some communication, as with all relationships, communication is key, and I think that is healthy between the TOs and the players. Okay, and someone said in the chat, but Rob, I'm told keeping plans secret means players are more adaptable and better generals. That's wrong. That is wrong. That's literally what scouting is. They would just be like, "You, lad, on a horse, go over there. What is the battlefield like?" And they'll come back and be like, "It's pretty fuck, boss." They'll be like, "We won't fight there then." Like, what about over there? They were like, what about over there? And they were like,
over there, if these guys die, we lose the battle.
like, fucking, we're not fighting there. Sounds shit.
So
Yeah.
don't take them. Take somebody
What is
else. Doesn't matter if they die.
It's all quicksand and bogs. It's like, okay, well, all we brought was tanks, so let's not go there. Let's just not go there. Okay, or we'll go back and get something else and come back with that. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the next couple of bits. Last bit, I don't want to spend ages on this. I'm just going to throw my opinion out there. I personally think grand strategies from books and battle tactics from books can be banned from events. I will do it at all my events. And my reasoning for that is, very simply and very quickly, is that I like that everyone's playing off the same hymn sheet when they're trying to create those battle tactics. I do not agree that units have been put... The black coach was not pointed because there's a black coach battle tactic. That's fucking insane as a statement.
I didn't agree with you to start with.
Okay.
And then I played this weekend where they were banned, and it was just more fun.
Why do you think?
Because there was no... So obviously I was playing Beta Chaos, which I have some strong battle tactics. I've got 2 easy ones. And there was a couple of games where I went, if I had that, I'd just win the game. Whereas then it actually made me play a turn, rather than just going, yeah, cool, I'll summon a unit, take your objective. Like, it would just been easy. And it also, when I played like an army that does have battle tactics, there wasn't any gotcha moments of, oh shit, I didn't think of that battle tactic. Because there's no way I can learn another like 60
22 times 3 battle tactics, yeah.
Like, I can't do that, whereas I can learn however many there are in the GHB.
I think it's more fun because you're playing off. You're all understanding what could happen. Like, I don't think it's even necessarily a game design thing or a strategy thing. I just think it's more fun because you both recognize what's going to go on. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, who's the best reader and learner? And let's be honest, it's none of us. Like, that's true.
Effectively for me, what the difference is like, I love playing Age of Sigmar because I come to the table to play. We play the same game, but we each bring our different rules. And what book battle tactics do is they let someone win the game with their own rules designed for their army, and they're not all created equal. Whereas it's much more fun if you rock up and you're like, these are the rules. This is what I have to achieve that with. And your opponent goes, this is what I have to achieve that with. But then when you go, I get to achieve it with witches and this, which are really good. And also I've got ways to win the game that are really good only for my guys. You're like, that's where we start to get a little bit messed up.
The book tactic ruins my point earlier about like having that one that scores you an extra point is cool. But then there's a couple of book tactics that have a couple where they score an extra point. And where the games are coming down to 1 or 2 points, they can literally just win because they had a better book tactic.
Yeah, Yeah, like so, like Bill, when I was at Summer Slaughter last week, I don't know if you know this. Do you know what one of the Fire Slayers' grand strategies currently is? Any takers?
I don't know what any of them is. No.
Okay,
Literally
perfect.
no idea.
So one of the Fire Slayers' grand strategies is have an invocation on the board at the end of the battle. So you just summon an invocation, right? Doesn't matter which one. Like obviously one of the invocations that Fire Slayers have got, and then you just like leave it until turn 5.
Put it
And if
in the back corner.
yeah, and if
Just-
your opponent doesn't have the ability to get rid of it, they don't have a priest, which Nathan, I don't think Destruction have got a lot of. Like not as many as
Sad
they need.
times.
Sad times.
Yeah.
Then it's just there. Like,
What?
do you not know this?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a grand strategy. Yeah.
Their
Yeah,
grand
no,
strategy.
a grand strategy. Yeah,
They're-
like
Like I played so many games to stop people's grand strategies, and it literally was like a part of my whole game plan. If someone had that, it would just
It's basically just once per game, roll 1 4-up once. And
well,
then
no,
you're
because
like-
you get you get
normally a 3-up.
Oh yeah,
Three
plus-
ups.
For the
yeah,
reroll.
true. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
But
I might
you-
start playing Fire Slayers.
But some people ally in a Rune Lord, so it goes
Ooh.
on to so it comes. I think it becomes a 2-up. I can't remember.
Mm.
So then hold on, and then let me just tell you. I'm trying to find the Nurgle one because I don't remember off the top of my head. It's something just like have a dude alive at the end, right? It's honestly mental, right? Let me try and find it. Grand strategies. Okay, so it is. Yes, Blessed Desecration. You can pick this grand strategy if only if the model you pick to be your general has the mortal keyword. So obviously that's going to be your
Lord of Afflictions.
Lord of Afflictions. Thank you. Who can deep strike? Important to remember. And if you do so after deployment, pick one terrain feature that's wholly within enemy territory. If no terrain features are wholly within enemy territory, you can pick any terrain feature. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control that terrain feature.
Sick.
Like, doesn't really feel like 3VP. Like, especially when we're saying it's so close that maybe doing the battle tactic for 2C, like with 2 Gleesh Veterans gets you 1 point more. It feels like those ones are gone. So maybe even keep battle tactics from books if you're super obsessed to do so. But I think the grand strategies are, because they're all very different. For every easy one, there's a difficult one. But I've spent too long talking about that. I personally would just ban them because I think it makes the game more fun. My opinion. I don't know if anyone agrees. Adam, yes or no?
I do after playing a tournament that banned them.
Okay, Nathan, yes or no?
Yeah. I'm in. I agree.
Okay, perfect. Dan, yes or no?
Binham. I've been on the Binham train since they came out. It's
Perfect.
you got to pick a hill to die on. This
Yeah.
is mine. I'm
It's a
happy
good
to
one.
die on it.
It's a good
Yeah.
one. It's a good one.
If you've got to pick one, I'm like the view's nice. I have not only the high ground but the moral high ground. Yeah, real happy with it. It's a good place to be.
Okay, all right, perfect. So next one, okay, contentious issue.
Ooh.
The Bincarnate. The Incarnate of Gur. 400 points of level 2, can't retreat. I often read them in lots of different lists that do well at the events. They've helped Sinesh level up. They've helped KO level up. They've helped a bunch of different armies do very well. I think, as a general statement, if your army is rubbish, it has an Incarnate in, and it makes your army much, much better. And then if your army is really, really good, then you probably don't spend the 400 points because you want all of those overlapping synergies in your already very great army. So you don't generally put it in, is my thoughts. So, Nathan, you've played against the Incarnate, had an Incarnate bombing around. What do you think of the Incarnate? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they are obviously a good piece. They're worth their points, I think. I think a lot of people change the way they play when they come up against an Incarnate. Like, maybe, I mean, obviously you've got to change the way you play a bit to deal with it, but I think sometimes it makes them they overplay the Incarnate really to their detriment. So yeah, I think it'll take people a bit more time playing against them to be able to cope with them a bit better.
That seems fair.
Mhm.
Adam, what are your thoughts?
I think it's annoying, but like it's kind of fine. I've played it a few times now, and it's just irritating more than anything. I actually don't like that it's available to everyone. I almost wish it was like only available to one army, because then I can at least go, cool, I'm not going to face one every game.
Yeah.
Because that's when it gets boring. Like when I was at Clash, I played one 3 times, and it wasn't even that it was like hard to deal with. It was just boring to play against. Was more the issue with it.
Yeah.
Like, so I just find it a boring piece to play against. But other than that, I don't really care about it.
Okay, seems fair. My thoughts are that I agree with Nathan. I think it's worth its points, 100%. Could probably go up some more points, which I think is fair as well. Its inclusion in so many armies really makes me question. I think that it's a really interesting piece because I don't think necessarily people have completely worked out what they want to do with it yet. And I think, like, even putting it in their army, I don't think it necessarily... I read a cute list today that had a Magister, that if it casts a spell on a double... if it casts a spell on a double, it's allowed to cast another spell. But if the next spell it casts on a double, it auto-slays itself, and on a 2-up becomes a spawn. And then you link that to the Incarnate, so the Incarnate then becomes wild, and then it runs off and goes, eats your own endless spells, and then it becomes like a level 3. So there's, like, really janky interactions to, like, manipulate what it does.
Oh, I've got one. I've got possibly the worst one. It's in my city's a Sigmar list, and it's great. It's in my dwarf list. I have a single elf, and her entire job is to kill herself turn 1, because the Darkling Coven's sorceress has an ability where she can sacrifice one Darkling Coven's unit and get +2 to cast. It doesn't specify that it can't be herself, and she has the keywords. So literally turn 1, she's linked to it. The start of the turn, I do my other beginning of turn things. Then when it gets to her beginning of turn thing, she goes, and then just carks it. And then my Incarnate is wild from turn 1.
It's pretty nice.
And then it can charge my own endless spell and eat my own endless spell, so it can be top level before it's even finished its first turn.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Adam, what do you think?
It's fucked.
What do you think about the big Incarnate? Like, do you think like people are using it well, not using it well?
Some people are using it okay, and other people are using it terribly, which is also hilarious. Like, I really like it when people deploy their army within 3 inches of it, and then you shoot off the character it's bound to, and then it tags their entire army turn 1, and you just laugh at them because they can't get out. That's quite funny.
It is.
But I also like the play of actually sending like a high cast endless spell at it. So like you send the purple sun at it, which you cast on an 8, and then you say, "Go on, eat it, try it," because if you fail, you go down a level, and you sort of play that mind game when you're like, "Yeah, go on, do it." So it's just boring. Well, that's the thing with it. It's just boring.
I think what's interesting about it is its like its mirrored nature, right? Like, it's in a list. I think, truthfully, it's the very best thing that they've ever done. I'm not sure. It's the very best thing they've ever done to bring some level, like some armies up. Tzeentch doesn't have an Incarnate thing. It doesn't have a Maw Crusher. It doesn't have even a Chimera. It doesn't have
you've just got cheating dice.
Yes, you do. That's absolutely true.
You actually just get to not play the game.
Hey, don't. I'll move on. Like, Nathan's army. Like, Nathan also doesn't have. I suppose maybe the Troll Hag's similar to the Incarnate in that it doesn't really die, but it doesn't really have the threat range. It doesn't really have that. So, if you're talking about Gits, KO.
I think the Troll Hag might find her dying.
Yes, yeah. Right, but the KO don't have that thing that can go fight on an objective for a bit. Like, they just don't have it, right? Like, they don't have it in army design. Sinesh obviously have been using it a lot recently as well to pin an army in. So some armies just don't have access to, and I'm sure there are other examples. And if you have some, leave them in the comments below because it's great for the algorithm. I don't have those things that you can interact with. But then that makes me like, because then I see the KO list doing well with it, or I see the Sinesh list doing well with it, and I'm like, they really needed that. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those weird ones where normally I'm super against generic artifacts. I don't like Arcane Tome, don't like Master of Magic, Command Trait. I don't like those things for the generic likeness because you just have a strong unit, get more strong, and you're like, that's pretty fucking strong, bro. Like, stop it.
Mm.
Whereas with the Incarnate, normally you see it in the shitty armies, and it brings them up a level, which I think I like.
I haven't seen much of it in the top armies, like in Nurgle, Seraphon, like a lot of those armies, Daughters of Cain. You don't really see an Incarnate in there because they generally don't want to waste the points on things that aren't getting their stuff. I like, personally, I'm for it. I think everything has a season. I love that you're seeing these big magical beasties roaming around. I don't mind that they're common. We were chatting off air just before we started. I love that Purple Sun and Endless Spells got such a glow up this edition, because for my money, they were the coolest thing that Age of Sigmar ever did. The idea that magic exists physically on the table as a model, and you can watch spells ripping their way across the battlefield, and then they sucked, or they weren't interesting, or they weren't good. So you saw like 2 really good ones and none else. Like you saw, like Warp Lightning Vortex and whatever, and that was about it. Now, yes, everyone's got a Purple Sun, but because a lot of the Endless Spells got better, you're seeing so many different types like kind of like put out there, and I love it. And so for the same reason, I don't think the Incarnate's going to be around forever. It's here for a good time, not a long time, but I enjoy it while it is, because I think it's a really cool, fun kind of thing to see flying around. And yeah, it sucks when one rampages through your army, but that's one of the things where I'm like, this is a cool, engaging thing in the game, as opposed to...
It also isn't guaranteed, right? Like,
yeah,
it fucks up a load. Like for every, like, statistically it should be fine, but because the pivot on it is so big, the pendulum swings so heavily, you're like when I played Chris, like, I threw the Purple Sun at, like, my Incarnate was on level 1, I threw the Purple Sun at his Croak, rolled a 2 on the Croak, and then 1 on my Incarnate, right? I just took it off the board, right? Right? You're like, oh no, bro. So... Yeah. You've got these, like, really interesting moments where, I mean, obviously I shouldn't have made it be there, but I was like, whatever, lol, this is great. You've got those interesting moments where it isn't as impactful as it is, like, it isn't impactful as maybe it should be, but then I don't know if it always is as impactful as it should be. I think in some situations it snowballs, because there's that finality to it, right? Where, just thinking about Carl's game versus Bill at Summer Slaughter last week, Carl got his Incarnate up to a level 3 by killing a Magmadroth, and then there was literally nothing in Bill's army that was going to ever kill it, right? But for a moment, maybe it was going to go down to level 1 and get taken off the board. So, but as soon as that happened, you were like, okay, it's level 3 now, it's all over. So, like, I don't know how I feel about it. I get the emotional hatred for it, but it feels like it's good for the health of the shit armies. Like, it's kind of where I'm at with it. And I honestly don't know what the answer is. Like, and I'm okay not knowing, if that makes sense. Because I think it's a case...
like that it comes with free terrain.
You like that it comes with free terrain?
Yeah, like you buy it and you get a load of free terrain with it.
I like that 90% of the Incarnates are not the official ones.
Hazel's put it in the chat, and I think that's hit the nail on the head too. It's cool when everyone can take a thing that's good, so you see all these rad conversions to suit armies. Like I've seen more either 3D printed or totally converted Incarnates than I've seen real Incarnates. And every time I see them, I'm like, these are wicked.
The Bad Moon Loons did a really nice one.
Did they?
Yeah, have you not seen it? I think Daniil played it with Zinch Army.
Oh, yes, I did see that. That was fun. I saw one that was a Cities of Sigmar, like Frostheart, a Flamespire Phoenix, but it was a conversion. I've seen loads of 3D printed ones. I've seen loads of, like there's some fun stuff. Nathan, you could do, aren't you, Nathan, potentially using a Dreadmore as one?
Yeah, yeah, I've got an old Dreadmore set aside, and I was like, when they came out, I was like, oh, I could use that as an Incarnate. But, yeah, I'll take 60 kits instead.
I think my Incarnate's the best one.
What's yours?
I got a big base, right?
Yep.
I put a Balewind Vortex on it.
Nice, perfect.
And on top of the Balewind Vortex, the cockatrice.
That's also very good. Well done, well played.
Yes.
I do like the conversions, actually. I think one of the Northern Ireland lads used an Onyx model from Pokemon, says David Smith in the chat. That's pretty
Great.
fun. Yeah.
Great.
So, like, I think for the hobby and the whole thing, I think it's pretty fun. Also, really excited for them releasing the next Incarnate, whatever it is. And I'm praying, everyone with me on this, that it's exactly the same base. Right, and then everyone will just be like, "This is my Incarnate." Also, for like, which Incarnate is it? It's the other Incarnate. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Incarnate 2.0 now with armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, now with armor.
You
Yeah,
have to buy it comes with expansion packs that you can glue onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that would be a great, like an IKEA style Incarnate. You know, like the old Space Marine Commander box that came with a ton of different bits, and you could make your, or like Warhammer Fantasy around the time of the Empire General. It was like, it came with so many options. You could build like one on a horse and one. That's your Incarnate. It comes with an Allen key and a bunch of options, and depending on what you put on it, it changes your Incarnate's abilities. That, seriously, Games Workshop, do that. I only want 2%. That's all I want.
Basically, you just want to play with Barbies.
Yeah,
Barbie
but that's
Incarnate.
why we play with War
Yeah.
Dolly. We all just
true.
want Barbies that kill each other.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I have mine on a Dreadsaurian base.
Oh my God, no! Thank God, please no. Right, okay. So the next subject is, I'm going to quickly go to the loo while we do this. The next subject is endless spells, right? And I really want to be here for this. So just talk about your feelings about it, and I'll pop back as soon as I can.
So I think we should talk about Barbies, personally.
I mean, that does sound,
Like,
a lot more
it's
exciting.
Summon a
Yeah.
Barbie.
okay. So if who would you put it? Like, what would you turn a Barbie into if you had to put one in your list? I think is what I want to know. Like, would it be your Incarnate?
If that
like
was
Incarnate
the
of
basis
fashion
your
of
conversion.
a model?
Yeah.
You get given a Barbie and you have to put it into your list. What does it become? Like a Maw Crusher? Like what
Marathi.
Yeah, just a big Barbie walking along, like crushing people in high heels. Perfect. Let's get Margot Robbie in on this, and we're ready to go.
Yeah. Or
yeah,
a rock
but-
idol. Yeah.
Avatar Marathi, yep, good. Battle Cow, rad. Keeper of Secrets, terrifying. Okay, we probably should talk about endless spells a little bit.
There's my Incarnate.
Someone's like, is it? Do you remember? Does anyone remember? Like in the chat, if you remember as well, during I think it was the first Generals Handbook, when the Balewind Vortex was a summonable spell before endless spells were like a thing, and you couldn't put a monster on it, but the Changeling could swap positions with something. So Zeeks were doing this tricky, shitty little thing where the Changeling would be in the middle of your opponent's army, then they'd summon a Balewind Vortex, and then using the Change Host, they could swap with a Lord of Change, and you would have a Lord of Change in the middle of your opponent's army. You couldn't go within 3 inches of it because the Balewind kept them away, and then he'd just stand up there shooting and casting magic. It was some top tier bullshit, but I
Every
loved
time I
it.
see the Balewind Vortex, it just reminds me of when Storm of Magic came out in Fantasy, and then you play that game, and everyone put that like amazing caster on these things, and you have all these ridiculously sized models on top of these tiny, tiny scenery pieces.
And I played dwarves, so then I'd just shoot them with a cannon. I'd be like, "Rad, so good that you're up there."
And then someone would miscast, and you turn them into a frog.
I remember one time playing Chaos, and you remember the old Chaos you rolled and whatnot, playing against Nagash, and Nagash failed a leadership test and turned into a dude, just a regular spawny dude or something like that. And I was like, best way to end the game ever. Sorry, we spoke about Barbies a little bit, and then we spoke about putting bin chickens on Balewind Vortexes, the old Change Host teleporter Lord of Change on a Balewind Vortex.
So in the chat, obviously someone's asked what happened to the Balewind Vortex, and it was just removed without
It
explanation.
got turned into Incarnate.
Yeah, welcome to Games Workshop Games. Okay, so Endless Spells, I was very excited about them at the start of the edition. Even so much, I went back and did a tier show. If you're watching this, you can obviously go find that on the YouTubes. Did a tier show for the Endless Spells. Pretty hype about the Endless Spells still, is kind of my thoughts. Nathan, kick us off. How are you feeling about the Endless Spells at the moment? They had a big glow up in this battle pack, right?
Yeah, they definitely did. I think I've always had a couple in. I'm definitely happier to take a couple with me now. Yeah, they've got great functionality. The generic ones are really good. There's loads of great shots in there that I've not even seen yet, which I expect to see, like the Quicksilver swords and stuff like that. So good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I've played against the Geminids of Ulgush again. I think they're proper interesting. But then even just the faction ones, they're great. My Gits faction ones, I've enjoyed using them. Yeah. The only problem is obviously you're spending points, and then in some games, those points you may as well just chuck them out the window because you're playing against a magic dom army that'll just shut you down.
Yeah, so DOMs are a term. DOMs and subs. I'm not really super like. I don't have the Nathan. Just quickly throw DOMs and subs so we understand what we're talking about.
Well, dom is abbreviated for dominant, so obviously we all know what that word means, yeah. And then sub is subpar, sort of subservient,
submissive.
I mean, yeah, submissive. You don't often
Submarine.
see that term.
Submarine, yes.
Yeah, often when people are talking about doms and subs in relation to their kinks, what they mean is I like to get busy several fathoms below the surface and the water level of the planet. That's why it's really hard for me, because if you're just on any of those dating sites, often people they don't understand that what you mean is that you want to be in a long metal tube full of semen.
Oh boy!
Right, there you go.
Okay, so
Too Christmassy?
too Christmassy, I think maybe, but still Christmassy enough. Yeah. So the so the endless
all
spells.
different words with sub in now.
Yeah. Subathon.
Subway.
Yeah, Subway. It's like, oh man, I'm such a sub, and then you're standing there being like, foot-long roast chicken.
Yeah, that guy took it quite far though. So, okay, so so there are magic DOMs, of course. Let's talk about a couple of those magic DOMs, shall we? Because this is meant to be kind of like more of an intro video, but also I think also has a lot of high-level chatting as well, which is good. So obviously, let's throw some out there. I've got to feel like Croak is one of the biggest magic DOMs in the game, both for casting and unbinding. He's got he can have +4 to cast, +2 from +3 to cast, +1 from his War Scroll, +1 from the constellation, plus another +1 from the Astaroth Bannerbearer, which is always in the list. So actually +3, and I don't know where the other +1 might come from. I can't remember. Maybe Arcane. Oh yeah, Arcane Terrain. Is the Realm Shaper Arcane?
No idea. But they probably say it is.
Yeah, they probably say
I
it
would.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's probably not the fucking big power bombs or whatever they are. So he's 3 casts and casts 4 spells, but also probably importantly can unbind at infinite range. And that feels like because he's also +3 to unbind and dispel.
Unbind.
And that
I think that's the bigger thing in a Magic Dom army is the ability to unbind power with buffs. For me, that's the stronger thing. Like if I go up against an army and they're like, oh well, they get pluses to cast, you're like, okay, that's cool. But when you go up against like Nagash or people with positives to unbind and greater unbind range, that's when you're like, that's really powerful because you're not just putting your own stuff out there, you're projecting it in your opponent's turn.
Yeah, that's the bit that's strong for me. What do you think, Adam?
I really dislike the unbind from board wide because even if I put my caster at the back of the board, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So sometimes you especially if you're a 1-drop, you'll deploy your caster right at the back, so you all should be out of unbind range. But obviously against Croak, it doesn't matter. Whereas if you come up against like Nagash, who's also got pluses to cast, at least his unbind range is only 30 inches. So then you can at least play to that a little bit.
Yeah, now Nagash is also an obvious one. I think it's the infinite unbind range that is the super effective element of it. Nathan, you got any thoughts on Croak necessarily?
Yeah, I mean he's a pain in the butt. And yeah, I think, I mean, we get a little +1 from standing in our shrine. But yeah, I just find against armies like Croak or Teclis, Nagash, even Thanquol has got loads to unbind with now.
+3, I think.
Yeah. The Tzeentch, Lord of Change, is quite hard to cast spells against. Obviously, Kairos as well. Those that have got the Spell Eater ability, they're a pain in the butt because then they're just eating you in the spells as well. So yeah, those are the ones that are make it less likely for me to really invest in the spells. But I do like to take a couple with me anyway.
Yeah, well, so we've got Croak, we've got Nagash, obviously with the pluses to cast and the pluses to unbind is also very, very strong as well.
I would say Hallowheart as an army. They don't strictly have a strong caster, but like 3-4 models pump out 6 to 8 spells with minimum +2, usually more.
They've got great casting. They've got great casting. I think
if you put a couple of Rune Lords in there, you've got unbinds with +2, so you can start to bounce that around.
I think the cheeky part is the unbinding and the dispelling. I think that's the kind of secret sauce that's out there at the minute. We saw Jeremy Vissier just this weekend do really well with a Vamp Lord with +3 to cast, I think, which he was taking. We also have seen Reikenor taken in a bunch of Nighthaunt lists just for the ability to +3 cast.
His Candle,
has been something as well. So people are really looking and even spending quite a lot of points on wanting to cast spells, be they endless spells or their own lore spells. But I think those unbinds come in pretty clutch. Tzeentch, obviously, with Destiny Dice, Kairos Dice, and also the Big Birds have got some great anti-magic in there as well. I'm not sure.
So I really like the Eidolon of the Sea.
Yes,
because he's got a natural. Well, yeah, because he's got a natural reroll. So yeah, he's only got 2 unbinds, 2 casts, but because they're always re-rolling, like it's fairly reliable. Like if you're playing up against Nagash and you roll a 7. Yeah, it may be cast, but you go, I'll probably just throw a reroll at it.
We also
he's expensive though, isn't he?
325 or 350. Yeah, 335 or something like that. Yeah. He's not that expensive, and actually he does a lot of work for what he's doing there. So
I think also some of the other stuff that's going off around like magic and magic casting is like I say, the anti-magic seems very, very strong. But like some armies really kind of weirdly rely on some of those magic spells to go off, and then when everyone else is just like started to swing their dick into the field because they're like, I really want to do some big spells, you're like, this is a bit of a disaster now. I haven't seen much like auto unbinds other than Host Arcana maybe making a bit of a comeback, but I have seen, because I haven't seen many Incanters as an example, but some of the stuff I have seen is I've seen what was I going to say, Teclis return. I've seen Teclis return in a big way over the course of the weekend, which kind of because he's a great caster for some of those.
Kill him in a turn.
But he's also a great anti-caster. Like I think that's the kind of bit as well. I don't know. Like I think
he's got one auto unbind.
He has,
and then no pluses.
But I feel like that's the key one, right? Like a lot of the early Skaven lists were, I'm going to do Thanquol in a boat. So you've spent Thanquol 300 and whatever points, yeah, and then you've bought the Laquan the Soul Seeker, the end of spell, which moves a character, which is another fucking 70 points or whatever it is. Oh no, actually he's only 40 points or something dumb. He's like super cheap. Yeah. But then you're like, and so like you're not spent tons, but you're like, he's in the list to go in the boat, and when he doesn't get to go in the boat in the first turn, you're like, where's he going? Like he's just walking across the board like a slow ass bitch, right? And I think like
he's not like a 4-inch. He's a 6. He's an 8. He can move. He can move.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a really good like caster anti-caster kind of conversation at the minute, which brings me on to, I gotta say it. Now we're into it. How do we feel about Purple Sun? That's where we're at. Like it's been in the game.
Hilarious.
Also, some big thumbs. Adam, hilarious. Dan, hilarious. Nathan, where you at with it?
It's all right. It's a thing that does things. Yeah. It's always fun. It's always fun if you can steal the one off of your opponent and ram it down their throat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Purple Sun when endless spells first emerged from the womb of that malign sorcery box, endless spells were, for me, were the coolest thing, and the Purple Sun was the big bad of that box, right? It came out, it was hefty, it looked impressive, and it was all of the stuff around it was like terrifying. It was the end given form, it was like the timeless power of death, it was everything. And then it was just like a fart in a hurricane, in that you barely smelt it. Like it just went and it was gone. And then you never really saw Purple Sun again. And now finally Purple Sun kicks as much ass as it should have, and you see it, and it is fantastic, and I love it. I think it is fair. I think it's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, Nathan, you thinking good, bad?
It's not a spell that I'm likely to take, although it is good. I think the rend that it gives your units is really good, and that if I was to take it, would be for that. The thing where it eats units on a 1, that can be fun for you if it eats somebody else's unit on a 1.
It does.
Somebody's important thing on a 1. I bet that is fun. I can also see that some people will have a bit of a downer when that happens, but that's just the game. It is a dice game, so that's what it's going to be.
Deadly Terrain. Deadly Terrain used to take models off on a 1.
Yeah, I've lost a few monsters to
seen Archaon like fly into terrain, roll a 1, and like somehow Dorgar stepped on a pointy stick, rolled over, and crushed the supreme commander of chaos.
That's true. But at least
that was your own fault.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's your fault to be near the sun. You know where it moves.
Yeah,
it's not your fault when your opponent casts it turn 1 and goes, ha, lol.
But this is my point. I would if that's going to happen to me, I would much rather if it's because of something my opponent did and it was a part of the game rather than what happened. I moved. I walked to where I needed to walk to, and I died. Like, I'd rather be like, what happened? I got eaten by the end given form. It's a much better way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Adam, what are you thinking? Tell me about it.
I think it's funny, but I do think it's terrible for the game. Like, for me, I couldn't care less if my opponent's got it in their list. Like, genuinely couldn't care less. They can cast it on me because I know exactly what it does. I know how to play against it, and I know how to almost use it against them as well. Okay. So, like, the amount of times my opponents cast it into me, and I'll actually bubble around it. So if they ever charge me, I've got the rend.
Okay, that's fair. Makes sense.
Which is quite a fun little play to do. But you think about so sometimes for a casual game, I've now got to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to a game. And if my buddy's taking Purple Sun, or I go to a pickup game, they've got Sun, and I want to try Teclis, I want to try, or maybe not Teclis, I want to try Archaon, they throw it forward, roll the 1, I go, cool, that was a pointless game for me driving.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that seems super fair.
So, competitively, whatever, but the people that aren't playing in that, which is 90% of the people, it's crap.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I think probably for a casual game, probably not as fun. I think you could probably play it in a casual game and then just be like, look, we're never going to roll the D6, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but when you go to a pickup game is what I mean.
So that's what I'm saying. In a pickup game, you could say that. You could just be like, let's assume I never roll the 1, and then I'll practice with it with the rend, if that makes sense. Not thinking about it. Because I know when I used it, I was only ever using it to try and get a 1. I was never thinking, and then I would get somewhere, I'd be like, "Oh my god, you're -1 save! This is great!" Like I haven't really played it that way. Whereas I think a lot of the Reaver spam lists or the Blitzbarb Archer spam lists, where you're looking for that additional +1 rend, or even a Sylvaneth list with the Bow Hunters, you're looking for that +1 rend, and so that's really really good because you're orientating that way. You're not really thinking about trying to auto slay a model. It's pretty divisive though in the community. I don't think I've seen people rage, but I've seen games won, and therefore lost because the Purple Sun was on the board and someone just rolled a 1. So it feels like it's not very representative of a skill flaw, especially when. Go on, Dan.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. No, keep going. I'll throw.
I was going to say, especially in conjunction with the Incarnate, because if you're thinking about those two pieces as two maybe problem pieces or those two kind of things in the game at the moment, it feels like the Incarnate lifts armies up and doesn't really help top armies, and then it feels like the Purple Sun really benefits armies that have the ability to do X, and then your opponent's like, well, I guess I'll just die. Like they've got those intrinsic bonuses. I'm not really sure, but I feel like it's really fun. But then I've enjoyed using it, and I think probably Adam's right that for the health of the game, it could probably not do the auto slay. That seems okay. I still think the Rend is great, personally.
Yeah. But I think comparatively it's fine. But it's just more for like the middle tables at an event, or even just when you go for a pickup game, it's just terrible.
Yeah, imagine playing like day 2 of a 2-day event, and you're both 0-3. Yeah, and your opponent's like, now's the time I'm going to cast a sun, and you're like, probably we could just have a laugh and not auto slay my models. That seems okay. Maybe don't do that. I don't know.
The thing I love about it is a bunch of those armies that my cities struggled to bust open, that love to just castle up, like Seraphon and Nurgle when I've come up against them in that regard. If I throw a sun, if they know I have a sun, they're a lot less likely to castle. And if they know I've got a sun and pluses to cast, they're like, oh shit, there's a good chance he gets it out. And they're worried about putting all of those hard to kill units in that back little pocket, because if I can get the sun over to it, they're in a lot of trouble. So I like the sun for that reason. And when you see, for me, there was a photo that started doing the rounds on Twitter of 2 Bastiladons side by side with ones next to them and a purple sun in between. And I was like, get some. I'm like, yeah, you know what? If you castle Bastiladons so that your opponent can't kill them any other way, don't be disappointed when they're like, that is a target-rich environment for the end of all things, and then flicks a sun at you.
Yeah, I still don't know where I am with that either. I definitely understand that it's very problematic, but so are 6 Kurnoth Hunters with +5 to cast, teleporting through a wood, kicking your fucking dick in and being like, I'm also going to teleport away now, you can't fight me back, fuck off, bye. That also feels like when Adam rallies his 1 Dragon Ogre back into 5 Dragon Ogres, he must be like, this is pretty sweet. I'm enjoying this. Do you know what I mean? And it's generically available, but some armies just don't have it as good as others, I guess. You're not having a Fire Slayer army with a Purple Sun thrown in, as an example. So I don't know. Have you got a yes or no? What would you do, Nathan? What would you do with the Purple Sun right now? Would you leave it as is, or would you do something?
Yeah, I'd leave it as is. I'm not that put out by it, and I think people will learn to play with it and against it.
Okay. What do you think, Adam? What you got? You got kind of a final wrap up on Purple Sun, maybe?
I think overall it is fine. It is literally just for people that aren't wanting to play properly. That makes sense. If you wanting to play properly, it's probably fine. But if you're, I don't want to use the term if you're a filthy casual, but for those people, I think it just sucks. It's just boring.
Yeah. Okay, that seems fair. And Dan, what you thinks?
Veteran and events, I think absolutely, but I would agree in the same way that if you're playing pickup games and casual games, there are a lot worse things, I would argue, that you can bring to them that detract from that game experience than a Purple Sun, in my opinion. If that's going to be the reason to be don't use it, I'd be like, fuck. I've shown up and been like, cool, what are we playing? And they tell me their list, and I'm like, it's just fucking 2 hours and I'm going to hate every second of this. Whereas if they were like, oh, I'm taking a Purple Sun, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to hate every second of this. So I would say that I don't feel as I enjoy it. I've been sunned and I have sunned others and I have enjoyed every second of it.
There's some great dice roll moments though when you look at that person in the eye. So much fun, and they're the roll of 2, and they're the happiest person in the world. They're like, yes, dodged it for another. but that's good for them.
The moment when you're like, which unit are we starting with? You as soon as someone says that, you feel it's in a game show when the lights dim and then the spotlights come up and it's like, dun dun. That's that moment every Purple Sun time. And it's the Star Seer used to choose a dice number, and then if your opponent could match it, they got rerolls, or Nagash's Hand of Dust. It's like that for me. It's always fun, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I'm not certain where we are with it, like as a thing, and I'm
Everyone
very
gets one.
I think I'm very comfortable with that. Like I think actually the mark of something that's maybe like super engaging is that it's not like let's definitely fuck this off, but also maybe I'm like a bit, traumatized. That's not the right word. That's not the word I'm looking for. Like someone's like, I'm going to shoot my bow snakes twice now. You're like, yeah, cool. Like, good. This is fine.
Desensitized.
Yeah,
to having your shit
desensitized.
taken off.
Yeah, I'm a little bit desensitized. I'm like, all right, yeah, okay. I don't know. Like Adam, you got much to play. If you had much opportunity to play against a new Sylvaneth.
Yeah, more than I'd like.
Yeah, and I imagine when someone teleports in with insert horrible unit here, lifts some shit off and then teleports away.
Yeah, but that's 500 points compared to 70.
Yeah. No, of course, and they use the invincibility. No, I'm not saying. What I mean is, though, is the first time that happens to anyone, because I think there's a load of people that still haven't played New Sylvaneth, and the first time that happens to them, they're going to be like, "What the fuck did you just say?" They're like, "I teleport away now. You don't fight me," and they're like, "That seems like bullshit to me. Can I read your rule? Because it is bullshit." Like, so I think that's fun. All right, to wrap it up, let's just throw out some big stuff that's out there that you're interested in. Nathan, Dan, and Adam, I know I'm just jumping this on you. Chat, same opportunity. What do you think some of the big bads are out there, or like the fun combos, or like give me something out there that's like crazy at the minute? I've got kind of a list of like things that I think people are going to stand out and talk about. The Cruciator for the -1 damage for Nighthaunt seems pretty key. The teleport in and strike and attack away for Sylvaneth seems very strong at the moment. Those things seem like kind of like key components of lists that do well. Nathan, what about you?
Yeah, I think the stacking of the bonuses that Nighthaunt get when they charge on in, where they suddenly like, I'm 12 rend and you're fighting last, and all of this stuff. That can be a tough one to handle sometimes.
Really love a bit of Nighthaunt bingo.
It feels a bit emotional, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're obviously a very strong army at the moment. I think that when that first happened to me, I was like, yeah, that sucks, being hit by these ghosts.
Yeah. Okay, what about you, Adam? What you got? Give me something.
I mean, the Nighthaunt bingo is probably the worst thing at the moment. But I quite like how the game is at the moment. Like, because everyone's got a bit of jank that is available to them. But like the Sylvaneth thing is annoying, but you can play against it once you've played it a few times. I think one of the worst ones is actually everyone with a 4+ rally.
Yeah, that could fuck off real soon. Yeah,
like I am utilizing that. Like I've specifically taken 6 Dragon Ogres just for the 4+ rally. But every time I do it, I have such a smile on my face, and my opponent's looking at me like, I've just sent so much in to kill 5, and you've bought 4 back. And I'm like, I know, it's great, isn't it? Like.
And also, I don't understand the concept of rally. Like they get back into the fight. Like if they've just been like. They've been magicked or had their heads chopped off or something, and then someone's like, "Oi, get back up!" And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll just back into the fight."
Winded.
Fuck off, you're dead.
They're winded.
Yeah.
They're just walking it off during the battle.
Yeah, they actually just they're sitting on a rock on the side. They're just like, "Oh, fuck me, that was a bit of a stroll, wasn't it? Yeah, really need to get a bit more cardio in." And then someone's like, "Oi, here, have a Gatorade and get back." They're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I was dehydrated. That's what it was. I got stabbed and shot a lot, but it was the dehydration that was stopping me
That's
from
the bit
fighting."
that got me. Yeah,
Obviously.
the rally.
You leak a lot when that happens.
Yeah, the rally's a bit strong, right? Like Adam's talking about Daughters of Cain, although I've mentioned them a lot today. So, that's also pretty strong.
Or the 9 Spite Revenants doing it on a 5+, then bringing one back on a 2+, and then the spells bring back another one. Yeah. That's fun.
That's fun. That's
a
lot.
The 4+ rally thing is a problem because often the armies that take best advantage of it already have multi-wound, hard-to-kill models that are incredibly powerful. If it was rally only worked on single wound models, I actually don't think it would be as big a problem. True, but on the whole, think about single wound models. apart from Daughters of Cain, and I think just because it's fucked for one army doesn't mean not to implement a rule, but I think the problem is a 4+ rally on snakes in Daughters of Cain is fucking rough, you know?
Even
Like
a 4+ rally on a unit of 30 Ungor that are in expert conquerors.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
True.
That's pretty rough. Yeah, like I think also because the activations are in a weird spot as well, right? Like also, like I haven't mentioned this, but this is something for me. Someone write an FAQ for the beginning of the hero phase, yeah? And I want to know. Like someone's like, I'm going to do these 8 things and then I'm going to choose a battle tactic. I'm like, no, motherfucker. Choose your battle tactic. Get on with the game, right?
I was literally all weekend. I was like, they were like, do you want to do battle tactic? I was like, hang on a second, just wait. And I'd be like, I'm gonna do my Dragon Ogre move first, did all that, and then I'd be like, right, now I'm gonna see if I get a command point. Oh, I did. I'll spend that on a summoning point, and then there was another thing that I needed to do, and then I went, now I'll choose my battle tactics. Thank you.
Yeah, I think
And it was the best fun ever.
I think the problem is that everyone has something like because there's also in there is like. You're like, okay, when are you going to start casting? Because it's at the start of the hero phase is when I try and unbind your purple sun. Yeah? So sometimes you'll be like, okay, like, because no one really declares. No one's like, okay, so that's all the end of the start of the hero phase stuff. Now my first spell. Everyone's just like, okay, heroic action, blah, 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 battle tactic, first spell, Mystic Shield. And you're like, oh, by the way, I'd like to unbind it. Like, oh, I've started the hero phase now. And you're like, well, you never announced we were starting.
But then that's when you call your opponent an idiot and say, right, next time you tell me when the end of your like when I was doing it, for example, I'd be like, cool, I'm going to start of the hero phase first, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to be with my heroic action. I'm like, no, you need to wait because it's still my activation.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And then I'd say, now you can do your start of the hero phase stuff. Then they do their heroic action, and I'm like, cool, now I'm going into my hero phase.
But I wouldn't mind seeing that just
clear.
Yeah, I just wouldn't mind seeing that written out, like by Games Workshop, preferably, but by someone else, just like. Start of the battle round, start of the hero phase, because you do a lot now. You're like, right, start of a battle round. Okay, everyone gets CP. All right, start the hero phase. By the way, do you want a proving ground something? Oh fuck, yeah, this maybe. Oh shit, activate an objective. Oh, I've done that. Okay. By the way, I'd like to stop your purple sun. Sorry, we're 3 turns in. You're like, oh shit. And I think that's probably my biggest bugbear at the minute. Like, is I'm not really sure.
I think a lot of that is just people not playing the game properly. Like, genuinely. Like, it's a lot of people trying to quickly game to their advantage.
Yeah, that like they're trying to skip it to
deny
their opponent.
But if your opponent says to you, oh, you can't do it now because it's not the start of your hero phase, then they're being a dick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think that there's also a fair point because you're kind of letting your opponent do quite a lot of stuff. Like you said, you were like, I'm going to Dragon Ogre move, I'm going to do a battle tactic, I'm going to get CP, I'm going to do another thing. Like when you're playing Croak, for instance, you're like, I'm going to generate some crown points, I'm going to do another thing, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't know at what point we actually moved into you doing other shit. Like, I don't know when.
I think that's just table etiquette, though. So, like, me and Dan we were playing literally table 1, game 5, and it was such I'm going to do this, now it's your turn to do that. Now it's my turn, and then, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that social contract that I think people should just do.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're not doing it, you're not playing the game properly.
Can I bring up one thing? I know we said we were wrapping the show up, but like, I just wanted to bring up one thing because it was really interesting, and I've been talking about this a lot offline, but not sure if I've been talking about it online. There's this thing in Magic the Gathering where you have to maintain the board state. So, like, if your opponent is meant to do something and they forget to do it and you don't tell them, you both get yellow cards. Obviously, them for not doing something they should have done, but also you for, like, not
allowing
helping.
it.
Yeah, for allowing it. Yeah, for allowing it. And I love that. I wouldn't mind. Obviously, no one in the fucking world gets a yellow card in Age of Sigmar. Like, literally, like, just fucking move models everywhere. And someone would be like, oh, he was just trying. He's just learning. But, like, I wouldn't mind seeing, like, that implemented because I really don't like the idea of it being more the gotcha system, if that makes sense. I'm far less interested in that, and I much more prefer the idea of maintaining the board state, like, which I think is a really nice way of saying it, because there's always that conversation you have where, like, well, I told him everything I could do, but, like, he didn't connect all the dots, as an example. And you're like, well, because you don't want to over-explain what your tactics are, but you also don't want to disarm you don't want to give your opponent too little information.
But it's like when your opponent doesn't choose a battle tactic. They have to choose a battle tactic. There's no rule in the game which says you can't choose one. So if you then go to the end of the turn and you go, haha, you didn't choose battle tactic, then that's on you as well. And you whereas, but it's also the case if your opponent picks like barge through enemy lines and then they don't actually put the models in there, that's not on you to remind them.
No,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not.
Like, so it's more like the reminding them to do something, but not telling them how to play the game.
Yeah, but a good one. I like, when you're on a burn mission, you're like, are you going to burn this objective? Feels like a good question to ask.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you feel like that's probably detrimental to, like, the overall score for me, but it's also worth asking for them. Like, I think, like, I prefer that. Like, I still think we're in very early, like, Age of Sigmar terms. I was playing 40k this weekend, and actually, I didn't necessarily hear lots of, like, enunciation on, like, what was being rolled to hit, what was being rolled to wounds. And I think there's definitely, like, a far more, like, I guess robotic, but ultimately a little bit more communicative style that could be played, which I found quite interesting. But yeah, I like that. Would you like to redeploy? I think this is a nice one, says Hazel in the chat. That's a good one. Like,
I
hey,
disagree with that one.
You disagree with that one? I've moved within
So
9 inches.
I think because that's a sort of a core rule at this point, that's one that your opponent should know. And like you then it's their opportunity to measure. They can tell you to stop. If that makes sense. So if when you move, you should wait, but you shouldn't. I don't think you should necessarily remind them to redeploy.
Yeah, I guess I would always
Because
tell
that
them
is
that
a
I've
cool
moved
rule.
with. I guess I'd tell them I've moved within 9 inches. I'd be like, I've moved outside of 4 inches so I can charge. Just so you know, are you okay with that? And then they're like, yes.
Because I just think like it can. That can be detriment. That is playing the game for them.
Yeah, that's a tricky one too. Like it's.
Tavi says in the chat, normally I just move and say, if you want to redeploy at any point, just stop me. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's the way to actually do it.
Because the hard thing is there's also a point where it's like a redeploy is a reaction.
Yeah.
And it's something that you should be. You react to what's happening. So it's tricky because in some regards you're like, I want to do the right thing. I want to maintain the board state, and I'm not like, for me, I'm like, I've had a couple of times where I'm like, I'm not going to let you redeploy now because they missed it, but I've made other decisions based on them not redeploying. And so I'm like, so if we rewind to you being allowed to redeploy now, it's actually the reason you want to do it is you've seen how my turn has continued to go. And so it would actually mess me up. And so I think that that's a really tricky one.
I do think redeploy is an exception to that.
Yeah.
Just because it is like that's a core rule that if you're at an event, your opponent should be aware of at least the core rules. That's like me saying, don't forget to put your models on the objectives.
Yeah.
I guess so. I think, yeah.
Well,
maybe.
I don't know.
Go
I
on,
think because you said you're going to wait. Yeah, you move and then you wait to see how long are you going to wait. I think if you just mention redeploy, then if they say
You
no,
can get
then
on.
they can't later on. Then you can just carry on. Whereas if they can't later on say, oh no, can I redeploy here now? So well no.
But then I think because what a lot of people do to me, like what will happen if I'll move, I'll give say like 3 seconds in my brain, and then I'll say, are you happy with that? Or rather than saying redeploy, or then as I'm about to move, my opponent sometimes will go, oh, can you just wait a second? I'm just thinking about redeploy, and that's when I go, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the major issue is maybe someone, if that was the system, I think someone could just like move a unit, and you're like, shit, I didn't even take a moment to think about it, I guess.
But again, that's the table etiquette that like I think that's obviously talking about that social contract that I think everyone should have of, if I move something, I should wait.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think I'd do it slightly differently, but then that's good, right? Like everyone's just got you got different opinions to hear.
I mean, the thing is, we're not sitting here being like, nah, fuck them, they can do it. Like, we're not sitting here doing that. We're saying like, what is the most like professionally sporting way to play against someone? Like, we're not sitting here being like, which is fine. Like, some people like Hazel, you're going to do it every single time. Other people are like, that's going to slow it down, so I'll put like a blanket on it. But no one is sitting there being like, yeah, but if I do my moves really fast, I can get the second one in before they redeploy, and then they're boned.
I'm saying,
like,
because that's just cheating, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's just being a douche.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the great chat. I think that's really good. That's helped solidify some conversations about where the game is at the minute. My personal, wrap up this 14th time. I think the game is in a great place for people who want to play a lot and
good.
play at a certain level, in my opinion. I think I think it's in a good spot for that. And I think
it's the Wild West at the moment, because we're at that beautiful point where it's been out and people have, because it's not as massive a mess with a pandemic, people can be playing tournaments and playing events. So we're at that point where people are getting comfortable enough to explore. And so I would say that the most exciting thing is we're seeing 10 cockatrices take out an event. Like we've seen Night Haunt in the ascendancy for the first time in how many bloody years since they actually were an on-table competitive threat. I think it's in a wicked place, because it's the time where you're like, if you've ever wanted to try something stupid, because you never, like, we might see terrorgeists and ghouls and all of that suddenly back on top, and that would be rad as well. So
shout out to Brett.
I'm just keen. I'm keen. I think it's going to be rad.
Shout out to Brett trying to make that work. Didn't make it work.
Stupid
Just
10
FYI.
cockatrices.
Yeah, that's true. Just take 10 cockatrices. I think it's the Wild West for lists. I think definitely.
You better hurry up, because you've only got a few months left now.
Well, that's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is there's only 5 months left in this GHB. How fucking crazy is that?
Thought I loved it. Now I hate it.
The 6 month window?
Yeah, like when it got announced, I was like, oh, that's cool. That'll be fresh. And now I'm like, Jesus Christ, I played a month and I'm nearly at the new edition. Okay.
Basically, it's pack it up. I've played one tournament. That's all I need.
Yeah, I'm done now, boys.
You get
I'll
your
wait for the
5-0, and then you call it. You're like, yep, got it, and we're good. Out.
It's been lovely talking to you three. Thank you so much. Twitch chat, thanks for joining us live. Podcast homies, thanks for staying hydrated, especially in this. Do you know that this is the very first ever heat wave that's ever had a name? You know how they name hurricanes and tornadoes? First one.
What's it called?
I actually don't know. Not death.
Stacy. Stacy feels like a spicy, temperate name.
Fucking Aussie. Zoe.
Heat
It's
Dome
called
Stacy.
This summer has been Heatwave Zoe.
I don't know.
Good
Zoe
name for a
feels.
heatwave, is it?
Zoe feels cool. Like Zoe feels like they're lounging by a pool in a breeze with a mojito. Zoe doesn't feel like they're setting fire to the planet.
Yeah, I feel like they should have been like Heatwave. We're pretty fucked. Like that should have been like the name.
I don't know if because that doesn't make me more concerned and keen to save the environment, if that makes sense. You know, like if they were
you just want to meet the next heat wave.
Zoe,
she was all right.
Didn't kill me. Whereas if it was like Heatwave Thundergrum or something, you'd be like, oh god, that's threatening. We need to do something about this heat. Whereas Zoe, I'm like,
Heatwave Dave
okay.
or something. Like something,
No, that's
Dave,
true.
Heatwave
Greg. Dave's here. Can't wait to see him again next summer. No, it's too nice. It's got to be threatening and violent.
Just name it after the people that make them, don't you?
Heatwave Gary.
Shell.
Heatwave Karen.
Right, well, shout outs. Nathan, who's your first shout out for?
Shout outs. I'll shout out Donal for coming second with Gets. Go Donal. And I'll shout out Nick. I think he came 11th in that tournament that young lad won. So,
He did. That's true.
So also with Gets, all with Squigs. Again, going back to the Squigs. So, yeah.
That's all you ever need. All right, Adam, shout outs.
Dan Arnold, because he's my boy, and our game 5 was fantastic. It ended a little bit weirdly. It was a bit awkward at the end, but we played it really well, and he's the most sporting person I've ever met in my life.
Okay, he is a fucking treasure. I would come.
Like Dan Arnold is the best person in the world.
Yeah, like if you, I mean, even if you covered him in olive oil and then a little bit of chorizo, he couldn't be more of a snack. That's all I'm going to say. Dan, you got any shout outs?
I'm going to shout out anyone who is running something that is probably massively overstocked in a Games Workshop warehouse somewhere. So, if you're taking a unit that hasn't been bought in 3 to 5 years, like 10 cockatrices, shout out to you. You're the people that I love, and I look forward to hearing from the most tournament results.
Yeah. My shout out is to you three. You three have been a delight. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for everyone for helping me fight the BattleTech chuds. It's been it's been a fun day.
All right, crybaby.
Yeah, all right, crybaby.
Yeah,
okay, crybaby.
Cram it down, you Eurotrash homunculus. Jesus.
That's my
God,
that's my Twitter name now. It's been lovely. It's been lovely hanging out with everyone, and for everyone who goes to tournaments, has fun, enjoys themselves. I think that makes everything a lot more alive. It's actually quite fun. Obviously, like COVID last year and those years where we were locked down. Now it really feels like we're just bringing it all together. And there's lots of games playing, lots of tournaments, lots of people enjoying themselves. And I think that's really fun. So I'm loving that. Because honestly, when we get together, that's when people really realise that they've got loads in common and they can have fun, which is a cool thing. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Bye.